we both got laid off. Literally 10 years ago this week, Nate was the one who like, hey, what if we just translate this sucker into a board game? And I've been told so many times that, hey, what you're doing is cool, but it's not going to work. As Josh Wielgus at Chip Theory said, it's like rainbow unicorn vomit. That's what he ended up calling Wroth. Like there was a joke way back at the beginning that Wroth stood for we really own the hill. Right.
Most people in this hobby grind for a decade looking for success. My guest today did it opposite. He got laid off from his job along with his buddy Nate, and they decided to create Dice Throne. After the creation of Dice Throne, it took them only a few months to actually get it to Kickstarter and make $181,000, and then $500,000 on the next one, and then over $1 million on the third. Now Dice Throne is an absolute empire with over 40 different heroes. Today he has a Dice Tower award on his shelf, his company's been acquired by Chip Theory Games, and he's running a studio building something I think fixes one of the core issues I have with Root. He does the art, he does the design, he does everything. This is Manny Trembly. How are you doing?
Cool. Doing great.
Did you go to Gen Con?
I did. I got back last night.
Oh, so you are fresh. How was it?
It was great. Gen Con is a beast of a show. It is quite an intense ordeal to go there and to have booths and run events and stuff like that. But for the two different primary companies I interact with, Dice Throne and Chip Theory, both were very positive. So.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it helps that you make awesome stuff and people love it and all of that. I went to Gen Con for the very first time this year. I went in, I walked, it took me like an hour and a half to literally like make sort of a loop. And I walked back out to that secondary play area or a demo area. And I called my wife and I said, I think I might've seen everything I need to see. It was just because it was just so, and for people that have been there, you know what I'm talking about. You just shuffle along like you are cattle, and it's just really hard. Luckily, I learned, I don't need to be the first person in the door, and maybe even go in an hour later, or maybe even never go on Thursday again if I don't have to. It helps things a lot.
Thursday's weird, and I think it's because there's that FOMO element of it. People are there, they're like, oh no, I got to be the first one to get this or whatever it is. And I actually find, as an exhibitor, I spend like an hour before the show opens, and I just wander up and down assorted hallways,
right?
And I'm
because that's your last chance to do it.
Yeah, I spend. I think things have changed over the years with each of the companies I work with. So years ago, it used to be I was more involved in the booth, like really running the booth. But now we have other people running the booth, and then I help. And so I had time where I would say, all right, I got a meeting. It's at 2:00. I would take off at 1:00, and I would just meander my way through one of the wings or one of the hallways or whatever it was. And just kind of, if you're not in a hurry, you can just kind of shuffle along and check out booths and see what visuals catch your eye, or listening for people's excitement levels at different games and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I ended up doing was like I realized that you really can't have a sense of urgency. Otherwise, you're probably not going to have a great time. And you're not going to see everything in one pass. That's why you're there for multiple days. Did you see anything that really stuck out to you from anyone else out there? Any other games that looked interesting? Yeah,
I tend to buy... So I bring a medium-sized suitcase and a small suitcase, and I stick the small suitcase inside the medium one when I check it. And so when I go, so then when I get there, I buy too much stuff, and I have 2 suitcases to bring home plus my backpack. And I always buy, like my primary goal is to walk around the smaller companies, the where Dice Throne was at one point. Right. And so my goal is to find something that's like visually stimulating, that I'm often looking for people. Like my wife really, really enjoys, I'll just generically say Azul-esque
Hey, that's my
puzzly
wife
kind of
too.
games. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think there's a this is stereotyping, but I think there's a strong parallel for I've met a lot of women who really love Azul and Sagrada and
Does your wife
different,
like puzzles, like actual
she loves
jigsaw puzzles?
puzzles.
Yeah, my wife does as well. So I think that's why, like
Yep.
any sort of tile lane, she is in. Like we're Cascadia. I played Cascadia Alpine Lakes for the first time, which is great for me because it stimulates kind of like the crunchy part of my brain, but it also
Sure.
gives her like, creating her puzzle or her tableau.
Yep.
So I'm
Yep.
always looking for those games that cross both boundaries that aren't just,
Yep.
well, I'm not going to say just Azul, but are a little heavier or a little crunchier than Azul.
Sure. Yeah, so there's that. My boys love combative games. They love to battle and duel, and they like
Radlands?
to play. They like Radlands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Radlands is a great example. They really do enjoy Wroth. Like I could see about over your shoulder. They really like Wroth. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
They love that combative asymmetrical fighting, and so that's my genre. Like I love
Right.
combative aggressive games, and so if I can find those, like there was one I found, it was called Dino Sitters.
Dino Sitters.
Yes, and it is a cute little game where you are babysitting dinosaurs while the parents go out on a date, and you have from 5 to 10 o'clock when the parents come home, and you're trying to create the most amicable or enjoyable setting for the kids, the kid dinosaurs. And you're making little patterns and you're getting points based on the harmony of what you are creating. And I didn't play it. I got a pitch. It looked pretty. I bought a game from the same company last year at Gen Con the same way, where I walked up
Featherstone
and I
Games.
saw.
I just looked up.
Yep. And so those were. I like that. And I mean, the truth is, I don't know if the game's any good. I have no idea because we haven't played it.
Right.
I don't know. But then I often look for smaller games. Like if I can find $20 to $25 products, I'll buy a bunch of those and bring them home. And then as a kind of a roundabout way of saying, like a standard Wednesday evening, my wife and I go to Barnes and Noble and we play a single game or two. And so we'll bring it, we'll learn it, we'll play it. And if it doesn't resonate, we're like, cool, that was fun. And then we give it away.
Right.
And so if it does, then maybe we hold on to it for a little while longer. But it's just kind of a fun experiment. And we're not going to watch a movie. We're going to hang out for 2 hours and we're going to buy a game, play it, learn it, probably play it wrong, and then figure out what to do from there.
It's interesting you go to Barnes and Noble to play rather than stay home. Is it like kind of like a little date night,
It is. It is. We take our boys out to like a teen event or something like that on Wednesdays. So they go do their thing, and then there's a Barnes and Noble nearby. So we hang out, we get a coffee, and often occasionally I'll just shop at Barnes and Noble where I'm looking at their shelves and we find something and like, hey, let's try that one tonight.
They've got, like, I keep saying this, like, their buyers are doing it right. I think they have a pretty decent selection, at least in mine. I keep finding kind of fun stuff. We go all the time. It's funny you're saying all of this. There's all these parallels. There's one right next to my house, and my wife and I do go just to go kill some time. And I haven't found anything really recently, but I've actually bought a ton of games from Barnes and Noble at this point.
Oh yeah,
and they're on it. So
I'm looking like right here next to my desk is a copy of King Domino, which I'd never played, and I bought that at Barnes and Noble. So that was the first time I'd ever played it. And there's a bunch sitting around my room here. Canvas Critters is another one. Haven't played it. Still in shrink wrap, but
I just got pitched that at Gen Con.
So yeah, I think the exploration and experimentation of different games is kind of exciting. I am very much just a hardcore fighting gamer. Like I want to fight people. And so it's always interesting Like my boys said, Dad, you need to have a YouTube channel where you review every game from the perspective of a fighter. So
Yeah.
like you review it from how good is this game on a scale of 1 to we get to punch each other.
Yeah.
Right.
like it invokes the feelings that I actually want to punch my opponent as opposed to within the game.
Well, maybe, but
That might
also
be a
like I'm going to
measurement.
fight you in the game.
Yeah.
I've only ever punched one person in my life,
Yeah.
and it was in 3rd grade.
It had nothing to do
No.
with a board game.
It had
Presumably.
nothing to do with the board game. He was
Okay.
following me around on recess,
Yeah.
and I was really annoyed, and so I punched him in the stomach, and I felt so bad. We played together the rest of recess. So that's the one time I punched a person.
Right. You said something interesting about like when you walk around Gen Con, you're kind of looking for the smaller publishers. And I agree. I think a lot of some of the most interesting things that I come across are from indie publishers. And I started to notice that I went to Origins for the first time this year as well. And I saw something called The Sheep as an example, where you are,
I've heard of it.
it's a co-op game that you're trying to get through a pasture full of sheep that mutate at night, and you have asymmetric powers with your shepherds. And it was just so
Wow.
odd and weird. It would never exist with a big publisher. You know, Asmodee likely would never publish a game like that. But I've noticed with kind of the smaller publishers, it's a lot of people bringing their really specific dreams to life. A lot of times designing themselves. You know all about that. You do your art, your design, absolutely everything. And I think that is really cool and unique. And another thought that I had in going to the Dice Tower Awards, which congratulations, you're part of the 20 strong team that won.
Right.
What is it? Best solo game. And I think
for Tanglewood.
Was it specifically for Tanglewood? So I mean, yeah, that's
Yes.
your design, right?
Well, yes and no. It was it was a seed I planted. So Tanglewoods is fun because that was all right. If you go back to when they launched Solar Sentinels in 20 strong,
Yeah.
I knew Adam Carlson very well, one of the owners of Chip Theory. And they launched their campaign, and I texted him, and I'm like, "Hey man, what gives? You made a cool solo game. How come I didn't get to make any art for it?" I was joking.
Yeah.
But he says, well, "Why don't you come over to the office and then you can play it, and then maybe you can make something." I'm like, "Fine." And so I went over and I played Solar Sentinels, and he taught me. This was on Friday, and during the campaign. And I said, "Can I borrow this deck and take it home over the weekend? And I will bring a full deck to you on Monday of a brand new game." And so I took Solar Sentinels, I went home, and I did art, and I made Tanglewoods, the game, using
You
the
didn't do
20
all
strong
the art,
system.
right?
No. I drew like the picture of red.
concepts. Yeah.
No, I did like the piece of red art that you see in the game is the art I made that weekend.
Oh, is it really? Oh, that's cool.
And the same for gold and white and Snow White. So Goldilocks and Snow White. So I drew all 3 of those pieces that weekend. And
So
then
you
I made
signed
little
yourself up
cards.
for 3 decks that weekend.
I didn't realize I was signing up for 3 decks. I
Okay.
did not know that.
Okay.
And I didn't even know that they would take the game. But I saw the truth is I didn't build a playable game. I built a prototype and a sample idea that had the Slay the Spire-esque travel, but I didn't understand their rules well enough to actually make a true 20 strong game because I was breaking their rules left and right, and it didn't work at all.
Were you at least using just the components that they give you?
Yes.
Because that's really the rules, right?
Yes. But there were guidelines that mean they built a really, really tight system.
Right.
And there's a reason it's so popular. But when I showed up on Monday, we played it and they were like, can we use this promo art you made? And why don't we just tell people we're going to make a fairy tale-esque thing?
Yeah, because they had the promo card early, right?
Did. They did during the campaign.
Right.
So during the campaign, that was because I spent a weekend making some art. And then they made
That's
promo
funny.
cards.
That was literally decided right then and there, like during the campaign.
Yes.
Okay.
And so then they gave and I'm going to call it a seed. I planted a seed of Tanglewoods. And so, is that a designer? They already designed the system. I was inspired by their system, and I gave an idea. And then Logan, who he doesn't work at Chip Theory anymore, but Logan took the seed, and I think he was the primary guy who built out the Tanglewoods, the first deck for sure, red. And I think he worked on the other ones, but I know they brought more of their other guys in to work on other stuff. But that was the beginning of my relationship with working with Chip Theory. And while I was there, I was like, hey, I got this area control game I made on a Saturday with my kids. Can I pitch that one to you? And that was Wroth. And so I brought that in later, and they were like, that's cool. How about we make that? And so that was literally the beginning, all because Adam was all like, whoa, why don't you quit whining and come on in and I'll show you Solar Sentinels.
All right. So folks, if you're watching and you need to go find some work, just do it, at least part of it, and submit it. And it might turn into your company being acquired by Chip Theory Games. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is very serendipitous and like,
right. And we're going to jump deeper into that. You did mention you're kind of with 20 Strong and the Tanglewood system, you're saying, oh, I just did the art, and they did a lot of the development or even the design, but the art is a huge part of a game. And I think it sells games a lot, but doesn't often get as much credit for the overall game experience.
Sure.
So I commend you considerably, even, for whatever, involvement you had with that system. But you were an artist to start off, right? You actually you had nothing to do with board games, and it was comics early on. If we're going to take it all the way back, which I'm sure feels like, decades.
Yeah, if you want to go on the way back machine, comic books is my first love, and from the age of 15, I saw a Jim Lee comic. I want to say it was Uncanny X-Men 275, or it was in the 270s. And I opened this comic, and the first 2-page spread is Storm across the 2 pages, and she's dodging lasers in space. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I'm going to make comic books. And so I started collecting comic books at 15. And I was convinced I would work for Marvel or DC doing comic book art. And I never did. But,
well,
I mean, technically, I guess you could say the Marvel Dice Throne and X-Men Dice Throne are me working for Marvel. But
right? I mean, you did.
Yes.
You once again forced your way into it by one way or another.
Right. It's funny because 15-year-old Manny would look and be like, "You're drawing for Marvel," right?
Yeah.
But it was it was just fun that I did get to draw Marvel heroes the way I would like to draw them, which was really fun because if I go way back, I would travel to Chicago Comic-Con, Detroit had Motor City Comic-Con, and I would get in line and wait to submit my portfolio to Marvel and DC, and they would always be like, your work is a little bit too cartoony. They'd be like, you needs to be more serious. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. I mean, I'm just drawing.
Did you try to make it more? Because you do have a very distinct, for the most part. I mean, you've diverged a bit, which we'll talk about in other games, but It's a pretty distinct art style. Did you ever try to make it more serious or sinister?
I did. My work back when I was a teenager was really, really heavy black and white. I have I get to say that when I was younger, I was like, I will never use computers to make art. Computers are the devil. I will only make real art on real paper. And then in 1999, I went to school for 3D animation, and I started using computers. And now it's been 26 years, and I've never looked back. So
you only actually draw what you have, like what are those pads?
Yeah, I use so the monitor right in front of me is a Wacom drawing monitor.
Yeah.
And I also use my iPad Pro to draw on using Procreate. So it's a combination of my iPad with Procreate on my iPad and then Clip Studio on this drawing monitor.
How many hours a day are you actually drawing?
It's a roller coaster. Some days I don't draw at all because I'm doing design work or meetings. Dice Throne is a large company. There's 10 employees. So for Dice Throne, it ranges from hero design, sometimes development, helping out with art, doing new design work, going to conventions, having meetings, etc. So I probably spend maybe a couple hours a day drawing right now.
Do you draw for fun anymore?
Yeah, I do.
That's good.
My favorite thing is to go to McDonald's and get a really large Diet Coke and sit with my iPad and just draw whatever I want. Like that's how the Wroth art style started. Is I just went and I was like, what kind of art style can I do that's not Dice Throne, not Tanglewoods? I just want it to be crazy. I want it to be like, as Josh Wielgus at Chip Theory said, it's like rainbow unicorn vomit. You know, that's what he ended up calling Wroth.
Well, that's just the color, but overall, like if you're just actually talking about the lines, it is more serious. It is more. I don't know how I would describe it other than less cartoony, more serious artwork.
Yep, absolutely. You know, right over my wrong side, like I have these little metal prints, right? And so those, I think the art is more serious. And if I had made the game could have been super serious, right? But I think the game actually kind of has a fun and whimsy to it and like a dynamicness. But then the art coupled with it makes it even more festive, almost festive battle.
I like the juxtaposition of the serious art and the color, right? Like, is that a conscious
100%
decision?
intentional? Oh yeah. Yep.
And so you were actually early on, you worked on PX, which is Panda Express. Is this
yes, you did your research. PX, it was a webcomic.
A webcomic, and you were nominated for an Eisner?
Yes, so my friend Eric Anderson and I created PX, or at the time was called Panda Express with no E because we didn't want to get sued.
I was going to say, did the fast food chain, Chinese food, actually exist at that point?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And so we would joke that, you know, we dropped the E because we didn't want to get sued. But when Shadowline and Image picked it up as a all ages graphic novel, they were like, okay, legally you don't have a leg to stand on. It's called brand dilution. You need to change the title. So that's why we changed it to just being called PX.
So you couldn't mention it's Panda Express anywhere
not in the books. People. Well, the webcomic was still called Panda Express, you know, and it was up for many years. It's down now, of course, but it was up for many years. And the website was pandaexpress.com with no E. So, you know, when you're just two knuckleheads making a comic book, you know, a fast food chain doesn't care, but Image Comics makes sure to protect their, you know, their brand, and they don't want, you know, lawyers coming after them for brand dilution or copyright infringement. So,
and then you started working commercially, right? Did you work on Myst, my very first computer game I've ever played?
No. I wish I could say I worked on
Studio.
Myst.
Oh, I did. Studio.
Yes, I worked for Cyan Worlds.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that looks like nothing like your art. I was like looking at it. Like, did you work on Myst? No, not at all.
So when I was hired there as a 3D artist in 2004. And so my first jobs were making just 3D models for Myst 5 End of Ages. So I did that. And then at the time, Cyan was looking for opportunities to branch out, make other products. And so my friend Eric and I and others started brainstorming like kooky, weird new games that Cyan could publish and try to find. And so we would create little demos and pitch reels and stuff like that, and none of those got picked up. So there was just, I think we brainstormed half a dozen cool games. But at the time, this is my assessment of it. No one told me this, but Cyan was kind of like Grandpa who fought in World War II. Everyone respects him, but no one wants to hang out with him.
Too grumpy.
And so, yeah, but Rand Miller, who was one of the brothers who created Cyan Worlds, he is an amazing man and was an incredible owner of a company and so giving, so amazing how he treated his employees. But unfortunately, the video game world, I think, kind of moved on. It moved on from that. And so and they have continued to fight really hard to maintain their puzzle games. Abduction, when that one came out, and then they've had two. I forget the name of the other one recently. Not well within the last 5 years. But anyways, so that was kind of a stint there, and then I moved into just doing commercial graphic design for kids' plates, cups, and bowls with licensed material. So if you walk into Target and you see a 3-piece set, bowl, cup, tumbler, and it has Little Mermaid on it, that was the job I was doing, and I did that for 8 years.
Being a creative, is that difficult, going and doing kind of corporate work that you have less kind of creative license to actually affect?
Yes, it is. And I would be cautious to say that it's not artwork. It's just not the artwork I would want to do.
Right. Sure.
I'm more of an illustrator and less of a graphic designer, even though I do graphic design. There was a lot of really, really good graphic designers and illustrators who worked at Zach Designs. Well, that was the company I was at. But I just didn't want to do that forever. So then I got out of that and went to a place called 7.2 to start making app games for like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Nickelodeon, Disney.
Sweet.
And that's where Nate Chatelier and I
no Marvel
worked
though
together. There was no Marvel in that one, no.
So your dream wouldn't be fulfilled for many years.
No. But Nate and I we met in 2004 or 2005-ish. And then we were friends and we ended up working. He helped me get a job at 7.2. And then while we were there working, we both got laid off literally 10 years ago this week. So 10
really?
years ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's amazing. Celebration.
Yeah.
But we were laid off from the same company. They kind of did, a third of the company got laid off at the same time, kind of a thing. And we had been working on a video game together that Nate had been pioneering. And then we kind of just fell into Dice Throne. Like we were like, let's make a board game.
More than that. You just fell into Dice Throne.
It was quite literally, we should just make a board game. But neither of us had made a board game.
Okay. Did you play board games at this time?
Other than Risk and like Scrabble, no.
That seems like awful a career move.
I did. I was a very active War Machine player. So if you know War Machine, tabletop skirmish game.
Yeah.
So I was an active War Machine player. Nate was much more board gamey. Like he enjoyed board games to a higher degree than I did or played or experienced. But he was a heavy Magic player.
Was Nate an illustrator as well?
No, he's a programmer by trade.
Got it.
So So Nate built the Dice Throne initial system. Like the primary game mechanics were him.
Did he do it digitally?
No, he did it on paper.
Just okay.
But the video game that we built was basically Dice Throne, except for like an adventure game.
Okay.
And that thing, it just wasn't going to go anywhere. We had gotten some advice from someone in the industry, and we did probably in hindsight, it doesn't even make sense how it went from, hey, we're making video games to, I don't know, why don't we make a board game? And then Nate built the first playable system. And like 2 days later, I think, middle of August, he invited me over and we played it in his kitchen. And we're like, this is cool. This is like everything we wanted in a board game. And we're like, we think we have something. And that was August of 2016. And then we ran the Kickstarter for that in January of 17. So we went from August to January from, I don't know, let's make a board game to launching a campaign and starting Dice Throne.
That is so nuts.
It is. It's bananas.
It's almost not fair for people that bust their ass for years. I mean, like I was just talking to Pablo, the guy that did Old King's Crown, and they were, which is another really gifted artist, as well as
a brilliant game,
as well as a designer as well. It's incredible. Yeah. But they spent years and years, and we were talking about how like people are so surprised that it's just like this. all of a sudden they just kind of like,
Yes.
it seems like it's an overnight success, but for them, they'd been working so long. You, on the other hand, just kind of knocked it out of the park immediately.
Yeah. It was quite literally the perfect. Like, often people will talk about how, overnight success is often the result of being in the right place at the right time in motion. Because you have to be in motion to catch right place, right time momentum. And we were in motion because we had just spent a year developing the video game system for Dice Throne. It was called Dice Forge at the time. And again, Nate built and programmed the system. And then I was doing art and graphic design, world building, and I was play testing with him. But that Dice Forge was his brainchild. And then when that video game kind of got kicked in the teeth by industry people, Nate was the one who like, hey, what if we just translate this sucker into a board game? And so there was a lot of legwork done that didn't actually seem like we were doing it. But when you started making the actual playable version, all of a sudden you realize the last year has been a precursor to this moment. And then, but absolutely, at that time, Kickstarter was growing. It was, Roxley was kicking it with Santorini, and they launched their first brass campaign not too long after that, or
so
right
you
around
saw
that
there
same
was
time.
potential there. It wasn't like an unknown space.
Right. In 2012, I launched my first Kickstarter for comic books.
So you'd already been on the platform. All right. So now this is starting to make a little more sense. I'm trying to find those through lines that gave you the confidence to actually go do this.
Yeah. And part of the confidence was just naivete and ignorance. I mean, just quite literally, we didn't know. And we started seeking advice about Dice Throne, and people would say, well, you can't do that because this is how the industry works. And we were like, I don't know. Why can't we do it? Why don't we just do it our way?
Like what? Like, what were they skeptical about?
People would say your heroes are too asymmetrical. Oh. They have too many components. You only need one set of dice. You don't need each hero shouldn't have their own set of dice. There should be a common deck that you draw from. Not each hero gets their own deck. You can't make an Ameritrash game. Like, you need Euros are popular, worker placements are popular. Ameritrash will be panned by other audiences outside US. And I think it helped that we were kind of ignorant and kind of naive.
Like, did you just feel like you knew something that they didn't? Because what you named were all the things that people love about Dice Throne.
Exactly.
10 years later.
So I think part of the beauty of Dice Throne is that Nate and I made a game for us. And it just happened to be that other people also enjoy it. And so we were very fortunate in that we made our game. And I was willing to just say, hey, if we make it and it fails, I made a game that I love and I get to play.
Right.
But there was we had a vision for what Dice Throne was and what it would become. And even like distributors would talk to us and they would say, okay, this is a cool game. Good job. What's your next game? And our answer was more Dice Throne. And
so you always thought season 2, maybe 100%. Not adventures.
No, co-op was co-op was planned.
Really?
Honestly, so Nate documented a 5-year plan and then a 10-year plan. Nate is an intensely meticulous and organized man, far beyond me.
Like he's the perfect complement to get this off the ground, right?
He is, I mean, like literally the two of us needed each other for Dice Throne to exist, because I am an art house goofball who just wants to draw and create fun things.
Yeah.
And I, at the time especially, I did not understand mechanics to the level that he did. And so there was like distributors, they'd be like, okay, yeah, congratulations, you like your game, but what's the next game? Because games go up, they die, and you need to make your next one. And we're like, no, you don't understand. We're making more Dice Throne. Like, okay, good luck. And so we just kept making more Dice Throne. And that's when we partnered with Roxley. So that's when Gavin Brown came in early on. And so we met Gavin, and we knew Nate specifically was like, hey, we need a partner that understands how to make games.
Was Roxley the second campaign, which was Adventures, and then season 1?
No,
revised?
Season 2 actually.
Really? So
Season
you all
2
had that
went
second
first.
campaign by yourselves. That was huge, right? You went from like 181,000 first campaign to over a million, something.
No. Season 2 launched first, and that was like 780.
Okay.
780 or 680 Canadian or something, because Roxley ran that campaign.
Oh, got it. So the second campaign was Roxley. I just had them mixed up. Okay.
Yes. Cool. Then we did season 1 re-rolled with Adventures. So that's when season 1 re-rolled is when it kind of took off. I think.
How much of that increase from the initial 181,000, which I'm sure felt like insanely successful?
Yes, it did.
How much of the increase was due to Roxley's presence and professionalism, and
it was,
or was
massive.
it just really?
It was massive. Roxley, what Gavin Brown does is he elevates products to a level that don't seem reasonable. Like if you, I assume you're aware of Excalibur.
I was just gonna say Excalibur. Yeah, I have the insanely stupid.
Amazing box that makes no sense whatsoever.
The absolutely stupid production that I paid too much for, but is amazing, and I would buy it 10 out of 10 times again. Yeah, yes. I got that one.
So that represents to me what Gavin is, who he is. He has vision. He has vision, and he's a brilliant game designer developer, and he's a brilliant product designer and creator. And he gets the right people around him to elevate the game. Like one of the guys who works at Roxley is named James Vanderkirk. And that box looks as good as it does because of James.
And who would have thought of that box where you have the lid that opens up and you got the magnetic, like the actual, madness. At least in the super deluxe version, the metal swords right there. Like,
yeah.
That's crazy design.
Gavin took Dice Throne and in ways that I couldn't see what he was doing. I didn't have the vision to understand how he would elevate the product, but he quite literally blasted Dice Throne into the future. And it was, I think our game might have gone hey, we sold copies and it did well, and then it started to fall off. But I think Gavin's presence, his ability to see clearly into the future and have a vision for what the product could be, I think that's really what elevated. It took us on that rocket ship.
He also brought just like a ton of experience at that point as well, right? Where you could get through so many barriers that you probably were facing from the first campaign.
Yeah, absolutely.
So would you say we were talking about these indie publishers that are trying to do everything themselves. I mean, part of that might be just they didn't get signed and they still want to bring their thing to life. Yeah, would you say it's well worth whatever they might lose in creative control to find a Gavin Brown, or is just Gavin Brown so incredible that you got lucky?
I think we got very lucky in the finding the relationship and building the now nearly 9-year friendship we've had with Gavin.
Right.
But I think finding the right people, understanding your limitations, and then finding the people to fill those limitations and those holes, I think is an important part that not every artist creator understands. And that can be a publisher, right? You can bring your game to Gen Con and meet with, Plaid Hat or Renegade or whoever it is and pitch your game, and maybe that's what it takes for your game to go out there and be successful. But if you want control over your game and you want to be the one to self-publish, it's a hard path.
All right.
Like there's a game right now that they've been plowing the field hard. It's called Good Knock. It's this 2-player kind of card war game where you're moving and placing your cards on this grid. And they have been working hard to sell and promote and build their community and build their brand. And they were at Gen Con. I think they had a very good response. But I met them first at PAX East a few years ago, and they had just a little pop-up banner on a table in the free play area where you weren't supposed to demo games, but they were like, we're going to demo our game until someone kicks us out.
Okay, yeah.
And I
Live
saw
bold.
him sitting there. Yeah, I saw him sitting there, and I walked over and I'm like, "Wait, what's this?" And we talked and talked and talked, and I gave them advice. And the best part about one of my favorite things about them was I gave them advice. My Dice Throne booth is right behind me, and it's got massive banners, and it's constantly full, and the success of Dice Throne, right? And I'm giving this some thoughts and feelings, and they're like, "That's really awesome. We're not going to do that."
Did they know who you were? You're like, this is my booth behind. Okay.
Yeah.
They had, well, that's a perfect example. They really want control over their product.
It's their game, and sink or swim, they get to say in the end, they made their game their way. And I think, maybe if they did it more traditional or businessy, would it be more or less successful? I don't know. I've been told so many times that, hey, what you're doing is cool, but it's not going to work. And the truth is I self-published 10 books for over like a 10-year period almost. And I think I made like
graphic
$500.
novels?
Yeah, graphic novels.
Oh, very cool. And you made $500?
I've made maybe $500. I mean, I've made nothing. So each one of those I made because I had a story I wanted to tell, and I told it, and then I printed it, and I did a crowdfunding campaign to help pay for the manufacturing and printing and stuff, and I had visions of grandeur. I hoped that it would be successful, and that I would, my company was called Fish Tank Books, and I wanted that to be a brand, and I would just make comic books the rest of my life, and it, for all intents and purposes, it failed. But what it did was it gave me the artistic chops to do what I do now.
What do you mean? You weren't talented naturally before? Like, what was the...
I think what it did is it sped me up. It helped me draw faster, which was good.
Because you had self-imposed deadlines to get all this stuff
done. Yes, I had self-imposed deadlines, but I also was working a full-time job. So if I wanted to make my book, I had to draw it. Like, I would drive into work early, draw at my desk, draw over lunch sometimes, and then go home, hang out with family until 10 o'clock, and the kids would go to bed, and then I would draw till like 1 or 2 in the morning. And then I would get up at 6, and then I would do it all over again.
What year was this, so I understand your timeline?
2012 to 2016.
So a few years, this was truly getting you ready for Dice Throne.
It really was. And often the art style I would use was contingent on the fact that I only had, like, I would view it as I have an hour. What can I do in an hour? I need to be able to draw a piece of art in an hour, fully finished, ready to go for print. And so I would either distill the art down and simplify it. That's honestly why Dice Throne looks the way it does, is because I didn't have time to spend a lot of energy on Dice Throne art. So I'd be like, okay, I got to draw this.
You feel like if you had more time, it would be more detailed or have a different style?
I think there's truth that if I had more time, I probably would have spent more time on each piece.
Certainly.
So I don't know how familiar I don't know like what your Dice Throne knowledge is, but when you look at a hero board and you see that centerpiece of art, that piece takes roughly an hour to make. And so, yep. So, I mean, there you go. So that piece of Iceman art takes roughly an hour. And
I mean, that's amazing.
So, but it was born out of a need of, I only have an hour. So what can I do in an hour to finish a piece of art? So it sounds, and I would hate for this to come across wrong, because I love the Dice Throne art. And so when I joke that it's unfinished almost, because if I had 2 hours, would it have been better? Well, no, it wouldn't have been better, because
would it have been more detail or something? Or would you have done a different style altogether?
I don't even know.
Because I look at this, I'm an untrained eye. I just see cool stuff and I'm like, oh, it's great art. I don't know what you would do differently there if you spent more time on it. It all looks really cool.
And I think part of it, like the end result, is actually almost the byproduct. The quality of the art, which I think is very good, is a byproduct of I don't have enough time and I need to get a product made. But what ended up doing was I created a style. I ended up creating a look and the dice throne style. And so it would be wrong of me to try to tell people, oh, it's not good, or it's I wish I could have done it better. But it's a part of my history. It's a part of who I am now. And
Do you look back on some of it and go like, oh, I wish I would have taken more time?
Of course. I don't think there's any artist that doesn't look back over their work.
Because season one is what, a decade old at this point.
Basically.
Yeah.
It's 9 to 10 years old.
You're right.
Right. In a couple weeks from now, 10 years ago, was the first playable version of the Barbarian and Moon Elf. So it's funny because I think as an artist, you always want to push yourself to make better art and do things. But I think sometimes knowing when to stop is also a really important thing. Like, when is the art finished? And I think it's really, really difficult to know that. And so sometimes deadlines help. They help you to know when to stop. I think, perfection is what do they call it? Perfection is the enemy of done. Mm-hmm. Or something. I think that maybe that's the term. I don't know. Something like that.
Right.
But I think it was like George Lucas got a lot of flack when he went back and touched Star Wars. He was like, I have money, I have time, I want to fix Star Wars. I want to fix scenes that didn't look good enough. And what was the response was, that's weird. Why would he do that?
Right.
Like, don't touch Star Wars. That's our Star Wars, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, but he's a creative. He's a man with a vision. And when he had the ability to go back and touch it, he was all like, well, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I fix it?
Right.
And it didn't need to be fixed.
I'm looking up at I have the box that has Pale Lady, Headless Horseman. That does look, at least from the side of the box, I can't go grab it now, more detailed. Is it more detailed than, say, X-Men was or season 1?
Yes, I think it is more detailed.
It's fun more thing there is style as well.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more rendered, but the technique used is still the same to illustrate it. Also, my good friend Nick Malara, he joined the Dice Throne team, and so he is an artist and graphic designer for us now full time. But he helped all the way back on season 2. He was an artist on the Cursed Pirate, on Tactician, on the Artificer, and other things. And then he would do pencil sketches, and it would help me to finish art. And so the Headless Horseman you see there, that's his illustration. I did not draw that.
No, I didn't draw that. That's great. Yeah.
Yep. So, but I did draw the Pale Lady piece and the Werewolf and Ravenous and the Necromancer, the central piece of art.
You did the other 3, and he did the Headless Horseman.
The other. Yep.
Well, that's good. They're giving you some help.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. Like right. Nick is an incredible illustrator.
Is it hard for somebody to come in and, I mean, you sort of did it with your corporate work, take a style that somebody else invented and execute to it?
Yeah, I think it can be difficult. Nick happens to be probably one of the best artists I know at doing that. But also he comes from a place of kind of comic book art. He loves pulp comics from like the 50s and 60s.
Okay.
And so, his personal work is really ink heavy and, halftone patterns, and, it feels like a noir novel almost from years ago. But I want more Nick Malara in the Dice Throne art, but Dice Throne art kind of existed before he came in. So he's been really good at matching, or not matching, but illustrating in a way that doesn't create discord between his work and my work. And on top of that, he had like the Vanguard stuff that we did, the most recent Vanguard set. He did the art for the Druid and the Sun Elf, and I did the key art for the Forge Master and the Duelist. And by key art, I mean that centerpiece. So, and then he also did the abilities, and he handled all the art for the Druid and the Sun Elf. And Nick has a little bit more detail in his work. So if you were to set him up and look at it, you would realize, there's more detail here. There's more intricacies in the line art. And it's just because that's how he kind of works. He wants to push a little harder and make more visual stimulation or art.
Do you see a difference pretty starkly when you line all those characters up? Because the untrained eye, I don't necessarily see, see a stark difference there.
I don't think most people would identify it.
Yeah.
I think what would happen is my boys, bless their heart, they're like, Dad, I can see the difference between the two.
Yeah. Which one do they like better?
Well, they like mine better,
Okay.
of course.
They better.
But that is purely subjective, right?
Yeah.
And 100%. I can appreciate that my boys go to bat for me. I like that. But I love Nick's work. I think
so which one did you said? Job. So Alchemist, Barbarian, Druid, and Duelist. Which ones did he do? And I'll put these up on the screen for people in post.
So the Sun Elf and the Druid, he did all of the art.
There.
The abilities, the key art in the middle, the leaflet cards.
Well, the Druid is very intricate.
Yeah, there's a lot of detail.
There's a lot going on,
and it works. And it works really well. It's a very beautiful piece. And it's a very well executed visual style. And the Sun Elf has a really nice detail to it as well.
There's the Sun Elf. Yeah, okay, I do see it. See it.
And if you like, he has noted, like, yeah, it's really cool. He's kind of noted that when he studies my art to help me make it, he's like, Manny, you do less lines. He's like, I can see that you're drawing less in this area, or you're removing information and letting color or shadow or stuff like that speak for it. And again, what I don't want is a studio where I need Nick to be mini me. Like that's, right. I don't want him to be me. And if I can help it over the years to come, I'm hoping that Nick is still with us, hanging out, making art. And if he is, I want to keep pushing and allowing him that freedom to create art within the Dice Throne universe that feels more unique, more him.
So you would see it continue to evolve, and if you were to like line all of the work up over time, see a slight
I think it's okay.
Time.
I think it's okay if that happens. I think one could argue that the Dice Throne art style should be sacred, but I think it should be sacred in that I often compare Dice Throne and games to Mexican food, right? So if you order, if you order a burrito and I order 3 street tacos, we have basically the same thing, right? Mine's a corn tortilla, yours is a flour tortilla. You put chorizo in yours, and I have carne asada, and I have cilantro and onions, and I put pico on it. But you put your pico and your rice inside your burrito, right? In the end, you're like, I like burritos, and I'm like, get your burrito away from me. I don't want tacos, right? So I think there's room for someone to take the ingredients of Dice Throne, like Nick is doing, and then start to craft his own unique recipes and his own unique styles. And it's still going to be Mexican food. Like, we're not making pasta. We're making burritos and Mexican food. And so I think it's important that a person like him doesn't pop in and be like, I'm making an ice cream cone, man. And I'm like, yeah, but I asked you to make a burrito. Right. You can't get your ice cream out of the room. That's not what we don't make ice cream. We make tacos, man.
Right.
So
are his burritos are influencing your tacos at all as you move on?
100% they do. And I think one of the things I love about it is that I look at what he creates, and he has a visual language that he prefers when he starts to create, but he's super respectful to the brand and I've known him for 15 years, and we've made comics and we've sat at little comic cons together, and he's selling his Inspector Von Ghoul comic, and I have my Victoria Junior comic, and we're selling 10 of them over the weekend, and we make no money, and we spend any money we
but
made.
You have a blast, right?
We have a blast, and you dream about the day when we could be professional comic artists someday.
Yeah.
But we would go eat at where are you located? Where in the country
Seattle.
are you? Seattle. Okay. So Carl's Jr., do you know what that is?
Oh, yeah.
That restaurant? Okay. In the Midwest, it's called Hardee's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Same restaurant, same food. But we called it Carl Son of Carl, because Carl's Jr. is, we're like, we would go and we would eat their not Big Mac sandwich. And we would just talk about how someday we're going to have an art studio and we're going to make comics and art and we get to just create, make our own stuff. And both of us are not businessmen. We were never going to actually build a business. But we would just commiserate and talk about how someday we're not going to make children's dinnerware. We're going to make comic books. And apparently we were not specific enough because now we're making comic book art and board games.
Now, would you trade your career as it is now for what you thought it was going to be or had hoped it had been then?
No, not even close. The one part I miss, and this is pretty substantial, but the part I miss is that narrative storytelling is not a huge part of board games. It's not really a place. There are narrative board games and there are story-driven content, but the story-driven content tends to be almost more cinematic, like Betrayal, House on the Haunted Hill, or whatever it's called, Betrayal of whatever. But you enter that and it's like 4 people enter the building and now we must fight off the bad guys and stop the cult from doing whatever, and that's the story. But if you try to in board games tell a personal or emotive story, it tends to fall flat with gamers. There are a couple that exist, and there might even be more that I'm just not aware of. But my experience is most board gamers don't want you telling them a story. They want to experience the story, the game. They want to write their own narrative. And I think like recently we've kind of not rebranded, but we've kind of emphasized the brand of Become Your Hero within Dice Throne. And that becoming your hero creates stories. And I think I used to be the person telling you a story, but now you as a player get to craft stories. And if after you've played a game, you are looking for someone to talk to be like, okay, here's what happened.
Right.
It was 10-9 and I did this thing and my barbarian wound up and I got ready and I had saved the right cards and then and then he rolled up to evasive and then he failed his evasive and I won the game. Right? That's a story.
100%.
You'll remember that story because it's yours and you crafted it. And the barbarian now holds a soft spot in someone's heart because the barbarian pulled off the barbarian pulled off this amazing narrative adventure in a moment. And now I can share that with other people. And I'm going to want to replay the game because I want to recreate another narrative with another person. And so, again, maybe I should have been more specific with my wishes and dreams.
Right.
But I'm helping people tell stories in their games. But I am not necessarily the one curating your experience.
You essentially said exactly what Cole Worley said when I interviewed him about kind of like what he's trying to accomplish. And it really is that emergent storytelling that comes from, like, he doesn't feel like he's designing a game per se. He's giving a player the tools to then go and kind of create their own experience and basically write those stories. And I think those are, in some cases, are significantly more powerful than somebody telling a story to you, or you reading a story, or watching a story that came out of somebody else's mind. It's so much more exciting. When you were using your Dice Throne example, it reminded me of a lot of people will say that, or not a lot of people will say like dice games are too luck based. Now, I analyze a bunch of games on an app I built called Cardboard, and Dice Throne actually is low luck because I give a ton of credit to mitigation, because there's tons of mitigation in Dice Throne, which makes it fun. But some of the best stories told in games come from those lucky rolls that happen, and it's never, I'm talking to Chip Theory about the most recent 20 Strong, as I interviewed a few of the designers there. They don't want you to win or lose because of one lucky roll. It has a lot to do with kind of what you have done leading up to that. Do you think the dice play leads to better stories in Dice Throne?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's if we wanted the game to be like a TCG where it's all your supposed skill of building your deck, which I find kind of hilarious because TCGs are still really, really luck based.
Oh yeah.
Right? Did I top
cards.
deck? Did I top deck the right card? Yeah. Did I mulligan properly in order to get the right cards to start? And I remember playing Magic with people, and they would get their cards and be like, "Oh, well, I lost."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Well, I didn't get the cards I needed right away, so I'm not going to be able to win this. And then they would just take their cards and they were done.
Justin Gary, he's the youngest Magic champion of all time, told the story where you can mulligan on your first hand, and his hand wasn't that bad, but he knew what he needed based upon the deck he was going against, and he threw it all out the window, mulligan, and hit exactly what he needed at that time. His championship was a lucky mulligan, but it was agency because he decided to mulligan. Right?
Correct. So I think one of the things, and when I talk about game design with the guys at Chip Theory or development or whoever, or even with our fans, Dice Throne asks the question, what do you do with what you have, not what do you do with what you want to have? And I think that's a difference between games like TCGs or purely open information games. Like Wroth. Wroth is a good example. Like it's all information's on the table. Mm-hmm. There are moments of like, ooh, what's going to happen? We're not sure. And then they do their feat. And then it's like, boom, the game changes. But there is the randomization in Wroth comes from the dice that get rolled. And now here is the menu. Now you must answer the question, what are you going to do with what is before you? Instead of, I wish I had the attack die this turn, because if I did, then I would be able to do my successful thing. And so I prefer that question. It feels a little bit like a desert island kind of thing, right? Like, what are you going to do when you crash on a deserted island? Because you can't plan for it. You're not going to carry a survival bag around with you in case you arrive on a deserted island.
Some might, but typically no.
Yeah, typically no. And whether you're on a boat or an airplane, if you crash on a deserted island, you probably did not bring the tools necessary. So now what do you do with what you have? And I think that, that's probably an over-exaggerated narrative, but I think point still stands that in game design, I prefer the question, what do you do with what you have? And that's why Dice Throne, there are no mulligans. You don't get to mulligan your hand because you have been given your tools. Now, how do you... And I think that's partly why people play it so much. I've played probably more than 20,000 games of Dice Throne. And I would play it right now. So you like the game
still?
I love it.
I know. I play right now, too.
I absolutely love it. And it is... If a game designer can do it, I believe they should make a game for them first instead of a game for an audience. Now, that doesn't mean everyone has that luxury, and some game designers are tasked with, hey, we need a party game. Right now, party games are hot. Let's make a cool party game. Let's make sure it's in the $10 to $20 range. And there are brilliant designers who are able to hit those things. They're able to make games that resonate with people with parameters set up. But I think some of the best games are created when a designer or an artist or team or whatever, they make the game they want to experience and make. And it creates a more genuine product. It's almost like the product seems more pure, I guess. But I would hate for that to be misconstrued as people who do commercial design are somehow lesser, because that's not true. Like Flip 7
first, though, like the very first thing.
I think if a designer can help it, designing from a place of personal joy and excitement on a product, that would be the ultimate way. That's the game I want to play from someone.
Right. When
I walk up to the table and I meet a designer, I hope that what I experience is their personal expression of what a game should be, and not, well, I heard TCGs are popular, so I guess I should make one.
Small box, trick taking, like whatever the buzzword is at any given moment.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And there's tons of good trick taking games. Yep. And whatever, they might be super hot and popular right now. I love trick taking games, so I'm gonna take a risk on a lot of them. But every once in a while, you find ones that are super fun and super neat, and sometimes those.
looks really cool, by the way. I haven't
which
played
one?
it yet. Crits and Tricks.
Oh,
It's,
yeah. Where you have dice, the dice that you assign to cards.
Yep, those will be the rank, and there's loot that you can collect and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, I did not play that, but it looked really cool.
Yeah, I bought it. I'm trying to get my son to play with me now because my wife's out of town. Yeah. Okay, so let's fast forward. We talked a little bit about chip theory. Tell me, like, how did that relationship evolve? We already know it kind of sort of randomly came together through some sheer, for lack of a better term, maybe dumb luck. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, I was friends with Adam. So, Adam and I would go watch movies and hang out together. And our families got together, hung out with their kids. And I knew that he was a board game maker. We were kind of matched by a mutual friend that was like, hey, you live in Minnesota now, because I was in Spokane for 15 years.
Yeah, I actually looked that up this morning to make sure you weren't in the fires. I was like, oh, no, he's in Minnesota now. Yeah.
No, but one of our guys on Dice Throne, his house, on his block, 10 houses were burned down.
Yeah.
And then
the smoke here in Seattle is crazy today from it.
Yeah. Yeah, and a handful of the houses on his block were not burned down, and one of his is one of the ones that did not get burned down.
Oh, it did. So it didn't get burned down.
It did not. So, on one, I mean, yay! I'm excited for my friend and happy that he didn't lose his house. But
yeah,
I don't know what that would be like to drive down a street, your own street, and all of your neighbor friends are gone.
Right.
Right. Anyways, but I forgot where I was going with that. Spokane. So we lived in Spokane for many years. We moved back to Minnesota in 2019 to set up to have my wife's parents live with us. And so they do now. And they have for 5 years. So they moved in. We're helping to take care of them. And then when I moved here, someone was like, hey, the guys there's a board game company, and you should meet Adam. You make board games. He makes board games. Check it out. Be buddies. And we met each other and had a great time, and we became good friends. And that was how I got to know. Like, I would go have lunch with them, and I would walk into the Chip Theory office at the time, and Josh Carlson would be there, and Josh would be like, "Hey," we'd say hi to each other, but then
at that moment, what did they produce? Was it Cloudspire or
Too Many Bones
and Too Many Bones?
I think so. I think it was. Yeah. I think they were 3 deep at the time.
Okay.
I think so. I'd have to go back. We're looking at 2019, 2020?
Yeah, I believe
probably 2020-ish.
Yeah, it's definitely Too Many Bones.
Well, Too Many Bones was their big boy. That's the thing that launched their company.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of how it got started. Was first just a friendship with Adam. I have become very good friends with Josh Carlson and Josh Wielgus, and I mean their company is pretty incredible. They have amazing designers, developers, artists. It's really cool to watch.
I mean, that's why I'm talking to you now with Chip Theory. They got me so excited about Too Many Bones, and I ended up, now I have a trove chest and absolutely everything in it, and I've spent way too much money.
I have a trove chest right down here next to me.
Yeah, and I didn't love co-op and the idea of playing in my own head solo and like making up. I came from a video game background, so I would never have to run the AI or anything like that. It just felt weird, and with Too Many Bones, it just clicked and absolutely fell in love. So, do you what's your favorite Chip Theory game that's not Wroth?
I do enjoy Too Many Bones. I am not a big co-op player,
right?
Nor solo, so. It's funny that I'm working with them at all, because the truth is I'm not a solo or a co-op player.
Right. It's not an apparent match out of the gates.
No. So what really, it kind of started as, excuse me, them wanting to figure out, well, I kind of maybe boldly said, hey, what if you guys made product that wasn't made out of plastic? And what if people could afford your games? That was one of my introductory conversations was, what if average people could buy a Chip Theory game? Would that be cool? And they jokingly and not jokingly were like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool, But they had set a standard at their company that this is the products they make. And I think that's one of those things to it's cool. It's really cool that they have a product standard and they hold to that at Chip Theory, and that's inspiring. It's amazing. But I kind of floated the question: well, what if you didn't only do that? What if there was other products? What if you made games that were actually easy to learn and difficult to master, and costs $50 or less? And there was a lot of curiosity, a lot of interest in that idea. And Neon Knight kind of hadn't existed yet, so Wroth was really the first foray into them creating we'll call it cheap game.
Yeah.
And it was $65 still. So, but
Right.
to their fan base, Wroth was cheap, right?
That
was very
when
expensive.
I don't even know how much is in that trove chest sitting there. When I saw Wroth come around at 65, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then deliver the kind of quality that was still delivered was great.
Yep. So I think that was what kind of birthed the notion of. So my friend Jeff Jacobson and I, we started creating Neon Knight Studio on our own outside of Chip Theory.
And was it called something before Neon Knight? And then when it got acquired, it changed? Or no?
No, it was called Neon Knight the whole time. And so we kind of created this, and we were only running for about a year or less, just the two of us making our games, doing the thing. Neon Rain was our first game that we had worked on. But even there, Neon Rain was a game I made with my friend Aaron Hine in 2018. So we'd already built it, and it just kind of sat there, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I assume you've seen Neon Rain.
Yep.
Have you? Okay.
Yep.
So that art predates Dice Throne.
Really?
So I drew that art before Dice Throne was a game.
That's interesting.
Yep.
But it also has your telltale.
It looks like Dice Throne art,
right?
Yes, absolutely, it does. So that art was me experimenting. There was no game at the time. It was just me making a comic book and creating characters. But that was my lunchtime explorations for how can I make art fast enough to produce on a regular cadence. And so Neon Rain, my friend Aaron Hine and I, we built that game system. And then over years, we just kept chipping away at it. And then we decided that'll be the first Neon Knight game. And then when we started, we thought, well, we're just going to do mom and pop shop, where Jeff and I are going to build this little company. And we started realizing really quickly, I kind of have a job. I work with Dice Throne, and Jeff is a salesman
a little bit,
for
right?
a company, right? And so I ended up talking to multiple publishers about, hey, what if I made fully finished little games? Would people want them? I can do the art, I'll do graphic design, I'll lead the design and development work, and I just hand you a game. And then you guys can do whatever development you need to after that. But I didn't want to be a burden on a publisher. I just wanted to make fun things and be able to hand it off. And Chip Theory ended up being the company I went with. And
were you considering others?
Yeah, I talked with 3 other ones, and all which were really cool. They're really good options and good idea companies who make great products.
Why not stick with Roxley?
Because the conversation I had, like I talked with Gavin about it, but Gavin is a visionary. Like the products they make at Roxley are games he wants to make. And that's something I love about Gavin, is he knows exactly the games that he wants to make. And so I didn't belong in that place telling him, hey, this is the game we should make. This is the game we should publish. Here's the game. Because the games I'm making on my own, they're for me. They're just fun.
Right.
I make them. I don't want to be a burden on a company that I'm working with or partnering with. And I didn't want to be a burden on Gavin. I didn't want him to feel like he now has to bend to my desires or wishes. I wanted to just make things and have fun. And I also was really glad for him when we kind of agreed this isn't the right place. But I think what that did is I'm speaking for him at the moment, so this isn't words he said, but I think he started to really focus on more and more on Roxley as his primary outlet for creating and producing. And so
Sorry.
anyways, but it was, I think in the end, it wasn't the right partnership, but not because Gavin elevates everything he touches. Excalibur is a great example. And I had worked with Gavin on Excalibur, and they refined that game to the sharpened blade that it is, right? It's as amazing as it is, not because of, again, I view myself almost like a seed. I helped get it started. But that game is amazing because of Gavin and Adam and James and their whole team, right? So anyways, but the one of the primary reasons I went with Chip Theory was I wanted to help them see if they could branch into a larger market. I wanted to see, is it possible to help contribute to the success of their company by helping to make games that were more affordable and retailable? And I think the answer is yes, it's possible to do that. And so it was kind of exciting to just view almost my relationship with them like a way for me to try to help them grow, try to give them more opportunities to broaden their brand. And it also gave them potentially an outlet for a more retail-friendly, non-plastic based products. So, and then recently, Jen Graham Mocht came in as the head of studio for Neon Knight. And she, I'm blanking on the name of the company, who did Parks.
Keymaster.
Keymaster. So she was there for many years, and she took the opportunity to come and lead the studio for Neon Knight. And it's been really cool to watch her work. And I think the two of us have a really good partnership, a very good friendship on this now. So I'm pretty excited by that. And she has a very good, strong sense of retail, a strong sense of marketing and product. And so we spent a lot of time at Gen Con, hanging out, talking, planning.
How does the overlap, if any, work with Chip Theory? Like, is there, like, how does the relationship actually work now? I mean, I know, Wroth is going to Neon Knight, right? But it was Chip Theory along with the 20 strong Tanglewood.
It will now carry the Neon Knight branding so that it can, hopefully that will open up the retail avenues more for Wroth.
Right.
I mean, Neon Knight, think about it more like it's a studio under Chip Theory.
Right.
Right. And so it allows for the creation kind of production of games that are, we'll use generic taglines of it's easy to play and hard to master, and it's accessible to all ages, and doesn't cost $100 for a box or $150 or $200, And so those mantras are kind of part of the plan of Neon Knight. And so, that's kind of where we're at the moment.
Does Chip Theory do any development on Neon Knight titles?
So up until now, yes. So Rec was heavily developed and co-designed by a bunch of the guys. So Ryan and Salem and Liz and Andrew Santoro, their design development team. Like I think Santoro, I think he designed 3 of the factions for Rec. But again, Rec was my kernel that I built the system of, and then they have been doing refinement work, like the 5-6 player version. They crafted the rules for that. I think going forward, they have a ton of work. They're heavily, I'll use the word heavily burdened, but it's their job. They have tons of work to do for Chip Theory. So I know that Jen and I are looking at how do we build a brand that doesn't just sap the life out of their company, right? That's the goal. Isn't to overburden Chip Theory. The goal is to be an accent, and to, if they have time and freedom, I definitely want their input because it's a studio, really amazing people. But we are also talking about, hey, how do we do development in the future? Will I do all the art for every Neon Knight game? Maybe not. Will I design every Neon Knight game? Maybe not. But Neon Night is kind of an outlet for me to create. And I have like 8 or 10 games I'm working on in various stages. So.
Really? All
yeah.
planned for Neon Night?
Well, potentially. I mean, that's currently the goal, but we're not going to publish 5 games a year, right? It's, I think, and Jen could speak more to this than me at the moment, but if we did 2 games a year, that would probably be okay to me, right?
Is Wroth going to be kind of the largest box, largest experience that Neon Night creates?
I think it will be on the upper end, yeah. I would prefer to not go much heavier or larger in scope, but I will say I do have a game that I'm working on, or I built a playable version of, that is probably as big or maybe a little bigger.
Okay.
And so I just want to be very careful, and that might just be a componentry issue. I don't know for sure. My goal is not to make games that cost $200. Like that's not.
Well, with the way things are going, that might be inevitable no matter the size of the box.
Right. It's very expensive to make product now.
Yeah.
So all the more I want to be cost conscious, but I don't want cost to be a thing that designs the product. I think that's also important, that money shouldn't be designing products.
How many people work at Neon Night now?
Well, there's one employee.
Jen?
Yeah. And I'm a designer, consultant, helper, right?
How do you split your time between Dice Throne and Neon Night?
I kind of view it as we go, like when something becomes louder and needs my attention sooner, then I kind of focus on that for a bit. And then as it starts to die down, then I'll focus on something else. And then it tends to be very fluid.
Yeah.
At the moment. Dice Throne has a team of 10 people.
Right.
Neon Night has 1 plus me.
Was that 0 before Jen got there?
It was just me.
Yeah.
And then, but it was me taking advantage of, maybe that sounds negative, utilizing the tools and the people at Chip Theory.
Right.
So, we needed a sculpture for a Wroth thing. Well, one of their guys would do that.
Yeah.
We need some development work. Well, some of their guys would jump in and help with that. And it's amazing. And they did a great job. But I think the goal is to draw less upon the people who are already working really hard, because the goal isn't to overburden and burn people out. Right. That would be very frustrating to me if the games I make for fun for myself end up burning out people around me.
Right.
Then that seems counterintuitive to why I made it in the first place. Right.
Are you going to try to build a team? Because something's got to give. If Chip Theory was doing this development work and all of that stuff.
That's probably a long-term plan, but there's plenty of contractors. You can hire development contractors, you can hire game designers, you can hire illustrators. It's not going to be Jen and I doing everything.
Right. Poor
it's
Jen.
Just that, yeah. No, we're not designer, artist, illustrator, graphic designer, manufacturer, production, development. We're not all of those things.
Got it.
So we've met with a development team that will hopefully help us on one of our next projects. And I'm pretty sure they're going to. And we've talked with a graphic design team that can potentially help us with graphic design in the future. We met with game designers at Gen Con, looking at different possible products.
So that's something you are looking to sign games up to an extent that aren't yours.
I think I'd be fooled not to at least hear and to keep my eyes open and my heart open to ideas and options, because I'm not the only designer on the planet, and I'm definitely not the best designer on the planet. And so I think it's important to realize that, if someone has a gem and we can help make that a reality and make it a good product that meets the core tenets of Neon Night. Again, that notion of it's relatively easy to play, it's difficult to master, it's relatively affordable, it's thematic and energetic and fun. Those are the things we want to be what people say.
Is head-to-head combat one of those core principles.
I have a tendency to design in that direction, but
Right.
that doesn't, like, the next product we're currently working on is not head to head, but it is competitive, right? You're generating points. They who have the most points at the end is the winner. So there's a competitiveness to it, but it's not, the next one is not nearly as aggressive.
Okay.
In
So you're
concept or theming.
open to kind of changing or going away from kind of your preferred style that you've kind of designed so far to date.
Yeah, and this one I'm talking about is a game I designed. Like,
Okay.
I built this.
So you're evolving as well.
I am trying. I'm trying to grow.
Yeah.
But it tends to be, the games I tend to create tend to be based on aspects of the board game industry that I don't like. Like, I'm not a fan of worker placement. I don't like worker placement games. So I made Wroth, because Wroth answers the question for me: what do I want in a area control game? Sorry, area control game. What is it? What
So
do I
you
want to
don't like
experience?
area control games, so that's why you built
Correct.
Wroth? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I thought for a second you don't like worker placement, that's why you built Wroth.
No.
Well,
I used the wrong key term.
yeah. Okay. Just so we're all on the same page.
But
here.
I don't like worker placement games very much either. So if I were going to make one, what would I do? And so that's a question I'm asking myself is, like, my family plays a lot of dominoes, like a lot of Mexican trained dominoes. They love Mexican trained dominoes, and they love to start with the highest number and go all the way to 00. And I really, really do not enjoy Mexican trained dominoes. And so if I'm going to make a domino based game, what would it be like? What would I do to use dominoes in that kind of capacity to make it fun and engaging for me as a player? And so, like, Fight 5, it was war. War is not a game, and it's a game that a kid learns when they're young, and then eventually realize that it's not actually a game. It's a revealing of an outcome. And I was like, well, I bet you can make war and make it fun. And so Aaron Hine, my buddy, and we built Fight 5, and it was basically...
And Fight 5 is fun. I can attest.
I love it.
I like it a lot. Yeah.
I love Fight 5. But it is built on the system of war. Jump Masters. I do not enjoy checkers or Chinese checkers very much. And so can I make that system into something that would be fun? And we made Jump Masters. So there's kind of a theme, a through line to the kind of games that I work on.
So you're rescuing us from some of those tried and true war, checkers, so on and so forth. Let's add some asymmetric powers.
If a person finds themselves not enjoying area control games, then maybe they would enjoy Wroth. But I do not believe for a second that people are disingenuous when they say they love worker placement and area control games. Like, there's a reason Brass is the #1 game on BGG and sells a bajillion copies and is famous and renowned, right? And that's not because those people are lying to themselves. It's because they genuinely love what they're experiencing. And that's not a game for me. And I think that's okay. Know thyself. I know myself. And I'm just not a fan of those type of games. That's not where I gravitate to. And so I would want to be very cautious that anything I say doesn't come across like those games are stupid and people who like them are stupid.
So not liking area control and building Wroth. Now it feels very much like an area control for me. When I think about Wroth, the problem it solves is the cost to entry that many area control games have. I'm a big fan of Root, but it has a huge cost to entry. This game doesn't. It's dice drafting, very simple on the surface rules, then you add asymmetry and it makes it significantly more complicated and fun. How did you get to Wroth? What was like the impetus other than just not liking? Was it not liking a specific area control game? Because it seems like
Risk.
a genre you would like. Oh, Risk.
I don't like Risk.
Okay. Well,
but my boys were just getting to a stage where they were like, oh, we played Risk and it lasted for 5 hours and it was so awesome. And we rolled so many dice and I was like, oh man, I do not want to I don't want to go through a Risk phase where I have to play Risk with my boys over and over. And I started to ask myself, well, what do I like about Risk? Well, I like dice combat. I like the idea of combat, and I like the idea of a war where we're battling over regions. And like, if you distill it all the way down, I played War Machine, which had an army. I would march my army against yours. I would roll dice and fight, and there were choices you would make. And the thing I don't like about Risk is there's no flavor in it. There is no asymmetry. There is no flavor, and and it also goes forever, right? It overstays its welcome. And I think so. Let's make a game that makes me feel like I am the high elves or the orcs or the dwarves or whatever the faction is. I want to feel that, and that's very much my Dice Throne coming out, right? Because Dice Throne is highly asymmetrical, and I want to be the barbarian. So I want to be the Coda and their bear-like faction. But I also want there to be. I love the hierarchy, the idea that you have elite troops and non-elite troops. So things have value and they feel important, and the feats are special. Like you get to have these very special moments in the game. Excuse me. I think it was Matt Lees on Shut Up and Sit Down said that even when you're losing in Wroth, you can have a moment where you blast the table with a feat.
Yes.
And just go bananas and do something awesome.
Well, and also you have the catch-up mechanism where you get the extra die if you are last in turn order? Is that what it is, or last place essentially?
It's last place.
Yeah, which gives you the drafting order, and that can lead to a huge turn as well.
Yep, absolutely. And you may not win. Like that doesn't mean you're going to win the game, but you at least get the story. You get to have that moment. We're like,
you also help to create the story for the other person that does win, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like if you didn't have those mechanisms in there, you'd have that runaway victor problem, and there's no threat sitting there, and it's not exciting. Those one-time use powers and the ability to have that extra action is huge.
Well, I'm gonna grab a water behind me.
Take your time.
Okay.
So you don't like things like Root?
I have tried playing Root.
Okay.
And it did not go well.
One time?
I only tried it once.
Interesting. I would have in playing Wroth, I thought this might have been a brainchild off of you trying to fix some things with Root, especially approachability.
No, actually. So I was one of the people that walked into a Target and I saw Root on the shelf and I was like, oh, that looks so cute. Cool. And I love Kyle Farron's art. Mm-hmm. I first was introduced to Kyle's art in Dungeon Mayhem, the dueling game.
Yep.
And I loved the look of the game. I thought, oh, this must be the cutest little war game that's ever been made. And it'll be so light and so fluffy and just right up my alley, and my family will want to play it. And I bought it and I opened the box and I started trying to learn it and play it. And I'm not the smartest guy in the room, right? I just did not understand what I was doing. So I bet you if I sat down and played it with someone who knew what they were doing and they could guide me through the game properly, I bet you I would probably enjoy it. Because I do like strategy games and I do like war-based games and I like asymmetry. But I think the number of people who have said to me, Root was my favorite area control game, little war game, but now Wroth is here because now I can actually play the game in an evening with my friends, and we can get in, we can get out. It's an hour to play. It still feels exciting and dynamic. And obviously there's room for both, right? There's no... I think
there is for me on my shelf 100%. I will play both for totally different instances.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's an important thing that the game they built is a brilliant product. there's a reason it is as successful as it is. There's a reason that people flock to it and teach it and learn it and keep buying it. But I think I would need another go with people who were experienced to help me understand it better. And so I think I definitely didn't build Wroth to combat root. It was more a combat of risk. That was actually the mitigating.
That's so interesting. It really, Wroth really feels like it's a perfect product that combats the main criticisms of root, which is approachability, but it keeps the area control, the asymmetry, and these exciting moments, and like I think a lot of people like root, including myself, because you can explore these different factions that then create a ton of depth because you have this constant dynamic play space. You have to learn what everyone else is trying to do as well, but it's so much easier in Wroth. So like for me, it actually just solves a bunch of problems I have with getting a game I want to play to the table with people that aren't extreme hobbyists. My wife plays everything I play. She hates playing root. She will play Wroth at any time because it's just so much easier for me to get everyone back up and running because the core rules are so simple. So it's surprising, but it also is like, I was wondering, do I just have that perspective because I have root and that's just like my experience. So it's interesting that risk is the impetus.
Risk was actually the game I was solving for.
Yeah.
Which I'll never outsell Risk in my life. There's no question. Risk will outsell me every Sunday, every day of the week. Like they'll sell bajillion copies of Risk, and we'll sell, if we sell 50,000 copies of Wroth in our lifetime, we'll be happy, right?
Yeah. So talk me through what the early design looked like compared to where it is now. Or was it always really similar to where it is now?
It was very similar. I tell this story fairly often. My kids and I do a 24-hour game making day once a year. First Saturday in October. And it coincides with 24-hour comic day, which was my favorite holiday of the year, where people would come together, and I did this, where you have to draw a comic book in one day. You would write and draw an entire 24-page comic book in 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And so a bunch of the comic books I've made, I illustrated in one day in a 24-hour period. And so, but when my kids were younger, they couldn't draw comic books. They were, 10 years old, 9 years old. And so I said, well, why don't we have a day where we make board games? I said, and then we treated it like a big party. We would go to the grocery store. They each got to pick their own snack that they wanted. Like, we're going to buy 5 bags of chips and chocolate and whatever snacks we want and soda but we're going to start
That's
at
how
noon.
You got them.
Yes, absolutely. It was, and then on top of it, they got to stay up as late as they wanted, as long as they produced. They had to create and play test a full board game that they would make. So at the end of the day, we would play each of our games that we created.
Mm-hmm. So everyone's making their own individual game.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you're helping, right? I'm like, hey, I got my thing. I think it's play testable here. You guys join me. Let's play this. That's how when Wroth was made. It was made in 24 hours.
Was it one of theirs or yours?
It was mine.
Okay.
It was mine. So Excalibur, Wroth, Jump Masters, and the new game that we're working on with Chip Theory with Neon Knight. So 4 games that I've made on a Saturday with my boys.
Oh, that is so cool. So you just work weekends and then take the weeks off.
Yeah, it's easy. You just make a game on a Saturday. You're fine.
You're making this seem really easy, Manny. I don't know.
But like my boys, there's games that my boys, my older son who is turning 16 this month, he and I co-designed a game in 2018, 2019. And he was a co-designer and got part of the royalty check. Like a company bought the game, they paid us an advance, and then they never published it. And then they gave me the rights back. So I have this game back, and I'm kind of waiting to figure out what should I do with it.
Is it going to be a Neon Knight title? Does it fit the ethos?
Maybe. Oh, it totally fits in the ethos of it. Yeah. But they've created a bunch of really cool core concepts, like basic mechanics, but they're kids. And so one of the things they do is they make ridiculous things. Like that's the biggest thing they do is when they're creating. Now that they've gotten older, they've definitely become more refined in what they're developing or designing. And so anyways, Wroth was built on that day, and I just put stickers on dice and I drew the map, and the map looked a whole lot like it currently does, except it was just pen on paper and some markers or whatever. And I designed some asymmetrical factions, and it had elite stuff, and then that was that. We just kind of built it.
Sorry, trying to change it. So the one thing that stood out to me is that you chose dice drafting as opposed to, which we'll get to Rec and how you change this, like actual dice combat, like a dice throne. Was that always the case?
Yeah, Wroth was a dice drafting game from the start. Yeah. What I wanted was a variable menu, because the one thing I have disliked about what I will generically say area control, worker placement kind of things, where the menu of actions is static. You can advance, you can recruit, you can redeploy, you can attack, you can blah, 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 you can harvest, right? So then during your turn, your action is it's going to be one of the four things. You just get to pick. And again, that question, what do you do with what you have, not what you want to have? Like, what do you do if the only actions available this turn are to maneuver? How do you compete against a person if you can't attack this turn? Right. And so some of the factions answer that by having the coda. When you move them, they do damage. They can attack in a region that they enter. So, I'm the grizzled coda, and awesome. I'm going to take these blue movement dice because it allows me to not only reposition to gain area or ground, but now I'm doing damage and swinging the game in my favor. So it was always a dice drafting game, partly because at the time, I thought it might be too much to then also add in dice combat on top of it. Like, okay, now it's dice drafting.
So it was never a thought originally, like dice combat as it. Okay.
No. That I think in hindsight, I'm really glad I didn't push for that, because I think that Wroth has so much going on. While it is relatively simple, it has a lot of decision points, and there's a lot of things you get to choose while you're doing it. And I think if you had to also factor in that every time I use an attack die, now I have to factor in dice odds into it, I feel like that might just be too much.
Right.
But Rec does it slightly differently.
And this is actually what got me kind of excited, because that is like those dramatic moments create some of the best stories. And then I saw that you started to roll cannon dice, right?
Yes, absolutely. So this was an attempt to add it in, but really now it's on you to decide. Is that how you want to use your attack die? If you want to attack from boats to land, you are choosing not to disembark from your boat, which means you lose the elite powers of your elite characters. You cannot control the island you're shooting at because you're on a boat.
Right.
And you may whiff. You have a chance that you could not deal the amount of damage you're hoping to do. So the attacks have a layered cost to them.
Right. And you get them rolled against you if you're in the boat, right? Which is
if you choose to sail by each other, right?
Oh, okay.
That's the only time. So I enjoy that part actually quite a bit. Like, I'm going to sail by you. Are you going to let me, or are you going to shoot at me? And the person will say, I will not shoot at you. Then you move past and they're like, actually, no, I want to shoot at you.
So that's a choice. When you cross boat paths, you can attack at that time without having an action.
The defender can. Okay. So the attacker cannot initiate conflict in that way, but the defender, I'm going to sail by you. And basically I'm trying to wave a flag and be like, I'm just trying to get past you, man. You going to let me? And you have the choice to be like, nope, I'm actually going to fire on you with my cannons. And again, no elite dice, no bonus damage. It's still based on the number of troops in the boat. And it creates little fun moments of, you know what? heck, man, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to fire on you.
Right.
And then you're like, oh no. And then that backfires on you as the defender. And all of a sudden your boat gets wrecked. And you're like, oh, all right.
So was this your idea or a Chip Theory idea? Because it does feel like Chip Theory DNA on the second follow-up. Like, hey, we have to be chucking dice at each other.
No, this was something I introduced into it.
Okay. Was it something you were always thinking about introducing, or did it come as no,
I wanted naval battle.
Okay.
I wanted naval battle. But I wanted naval battle to be not required, because the truth is you could play the entire game with no one firing a shot from land to boat or boat to land. It is possible, but you're not going to do it because it's not fun. Correct.
Yeah. See, my wife and I go at each other's throats, and if she has an opportunity to attack me, she will, even if it's not the best strategic decision.
Yes.
Because that's just the fun way to play.
Absolutely. It's great. And it creates moments. And again, you could be losing and someone's like, well, I need to sail past you because if I do, I'll try to take care of the guy in the lead. And the person who's maybe not winning could be like, nah, I'm just going to shoot at you as you sail by me. I don't care. And, then you get into the negotiating part of it of like, what, you fired on me? Fine. I'm going to fire on you the next time you come and do the, and I think that it feels thematic and right for Rec to do this. I'm glad I didn't do anything like this in Wroth. Like, I think that would have been the wrong method for Wroth.
So this concept of Exodus, I did not even my first game. I wasn't even thinking about it. It wasn't, I don't know if I just didn't remember it didn't happen. And I kept coming up with I don't like these dice that are here. But then it turns out Exodus might be there to help to mitigate that and also be an insanely powerful move. Was that always part of the design? And does that change in Rec at all?
It was always a part of the design. It was a die face originally. So there was the Exodus action die face.
Oh, okay.
But we found that the earlier the game is, the more powerful Exodus action is. It actually becomes less powerful as the game progresses.
Even though you have more of an opportunity to get troops out for that big Exodus action?
So the reason it works early is because people often load up their deployment zone in Wroth.
Right.
If you get 5 to 10 guys in your deployment zone, an Exodus action has more efficiency and more power than it does if you have 4 people in a region. The other thing is, from your deployment zone in Wroth, you can touch regions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
So the ability to launch out of your deployment zone, but once you've done that and you're now on regions, the Exodus action becomes less powerful because generally speaking, you're going to have less guys in any given region. That doesn't mean it's not useful. It just is less. It has less potency than it will early in the game. But there's still moments where you're like, oh man, you're obviously winning this region. And I got 6 guys in here, but you have the region. So actually, I'm going to Exodus, and I'm going to just disperse out of there into the adjacent ones and try to cause havoc. And I'll leave 1 back there to stop you from dominating. But otherwise, I'm going to hop around. So the Exodus became, because it was so powerful, it needed to cost something. Like it had to cost something. So the fact that you could use 2 dice to Exodus at any point in time gives you the freedom now. And again, that breaks the mold of a lot of area control games.
Oh, yeah.
Where
it's a hugely powerful power.
Yes. But it has diminishing returns over the game. Now, Rec is interesting because Rec, you are landlocked on your island until you get a boat. Or at least if you send your boats out, as you build up reserves on your island, it gets harder to get them out.
Is your island your starting space, the deployment zone?
Yep. Okay. Yeah, the corners are your starting spot. And you cannot leave there without a boat. And each boat can only hold 4 troops. So the most you can Exodus is 12 troops out of your deployment. The other catch with Rec is that a maneuver or an Exodus can either load a boat and sail it, or it can sail a preloaded boat and then disembark onto regions. So you kind of have to pre-build your boats in hopes on your island to get ready to Exodus and shoot out across the board. But if you've done that too slowly, someone else might park their boat where you want to go. And you're like,
oh,
okay,
so if they're parked there, you can't get to the right spot to then disperse in the areas that you want to.
Yeah, you might have waited too long to get to that spot. Now, you could go a different path and try to still disembark. The map's not so big that you can't still touch most
Can you
of the
move,
map area.
3 of those sea spaces at a time?
3 nodes. Yeah. 3 nodes across the board. But there's ways to get your boats back once you Exodus and all that kind of stuff. So my boys prefer Rec. They actually think Rec is the more fun game.
It looks
of the two.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Wroth, but Rec does look more interesting, which makes sense. You're adding more componentry, but it's also more complex. I don't know that I would start somebody with Rec. I don't know. What do you think there?
Yeah, I would agree. I taught my wife's dad. We played and he joined, and he ended up winning with a little assistance. But it was his first time playing Wroth or Rec. Mm-hmm. And it took him a little while to wrap his head around it. And I would definitely say Rec is slightly more complicated than Wroth.
Are the factions more complicated as well? I know there's still the same number, but still pretty straightforward on what.
No, they have unique mechanics. The Murin, the fish people, they actually have a troop that is equal to the value on the die. So if you have a 4 health spore...
The spore.
The spore. So the spore, if it's a 4, it's actually equal to 4 troops.
That's what I got wrong in my first game as well. I was like, I kept wanting to have those big troops be my power in that particular area. Yes. So it's interesting.
And that was the original game when we created it. That's what it was.
Oh, really?
So your Grizzled was 5. He was worth 5 troops. But that very quickly was revealed to be too strong. So if I wanted to win a region, I just dropped 3 Grizzled at 5 each, and I have 15 troops in a region. Luck. That's just too much.
Yeah.
So it was the right thing to change for sure. But now that we understand the game better, now we can do things like that. Now we can, but there's a cost, right? It's going to cost you something to do that, and it puts a target on your head. That's one of the parts I love most about Wroth and Rec, is that played well. If one person starts to inch ahead of the others, there really should be like timeout. Manny's got a lead, and he looks more powerful. So why don't we call a temporary alliance here? And I'm going to go attack him, and I'm going to do this. What are you going to do to stop him? And then I'm over here being like, "What, guys? I'm just trying to get some points. I'm not a big deal," you know. And so,
but that's one of my favorite parts in Root, but it also bites me more often than not, where I will set the other person up for whatever reason, to win and not myself. But it is still satisfying if I turn my goal to just making that person not win. I still feel like I get a win if they don't win.
It's a fun balance because the whole king making element of it is rough. Like some people get real mad about that. I think one of the parts that makes it maybe a little more okay in Wroth and Rec is that if you're experienced, the game's over in about an hour.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's what makes it okay. Yep.
Yes, it makes it palatable, and you end up in a situation where it's a bunch of friends. We're playing games. You win all the time, so I'm just going to pick on you. It's just going to be. We're just going to have a good time, and I'm going to fire all my cannon shots at you. Yeah, like. I'll often tell my wife and my boys that when we're playing games, we're not family. Like, I'm sorry, Lisa, you're not my wife right now. We're playing a game. And that doesn't mean I abuse that situation, but we joke that I'm playing Dice Throne. My goal is to defeat you. It's not to. But the key, one of the things I think is really important when playing games with people is even though the objective of the game is to win, my goal is to create a situation where she wants to play again. Like I am not here to win, even if the objective of the game is to win. And I think that creates an environment where people come back and they want to keep experiencing your game. Now it's possible I'm not the best at Wroth, but I'm pretty good. My boys will often be like, "Dad, you get stuck with the garbage faction. We're going to play the good ones."
Why did you make the garbage faction, good, boys. Dad?
Yeah, and I always make them pick my faction. And then when we play, they can't help themselves. They're brothers. They start picking on each other, and then they start fighting. And then I just quietly build an empire, and I use my
With your
tools
boring
to bully
faction.
them into each other. And then in the end, I win the game. But they had a blast fighting each other and yelling at each other and being mad that the brother should have attacked me but didn't because he was feeling vindictive. And, like, great, there's a story. And guess what? We want to play Wroth again. And we get to win.
When did you know that Wreck was going to be, meaning like the boats in the sea, this theme was something that you wanted as the follow-up? Or are there other options that you were weighing?
Rec was created in the last 6 months.
Okay.
Like it was fairly recently that it was built. And I think there was a little bit of a wait and see with Wroth. Because we didn't know. I mean, is this going to be popular? Is it successful? It definitely deviates a little bit from a more standard area control game.
Yeah.
And so, and it's coming out of Chip Theory, who doesn't make these type of games. We did the solo co-op thing, but the truth is the solo co-op's not great.
That was going to be a question. That's what everyone in the comments wants to know. Why no solo and co-op?
The truth is the solo and co-op was kind of forced in because they wanted their fans to enjoy, and a lot of their fans are solo co-op players.
And I think that you're seeing that in the comments now, right?
Yep. And so I think the very first iteration of the solo version, I actually was trying. I was like, I want to make a fun soloable version of this, but I don't want to break the competitive version, because the competitive version is the one I wanted.
Yeah.
So again, you come back to, did I make a game for me, or did I make it for a person who wants to play solo co-op? And I made it for me first, and then Chip Theory and I tried to make a solo co-opable version, and it works. And if you go on their Discord, you'll see people who defend it and are like, this is super fun, I've loved it, I've beat all the factions, I do it. But they will often compare it to a puzzle game. They'll say that,
yeah, because it's like giving you a goal, right? To hit.
You have to stop the blah 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 from reaching their endpoint at this point, but they disperse from this area, which means they're more likely to win because they now control X, Y, Z, whatever. The people on their Discord, when they describe it and help other people understand, they're like, if you treat it like a puzzle, you'll realize that it's a very satisfying puzzle to crack. But if you treat it like an area control war game that you're playing solo, you're probably not going to like it, because it's not an area control war game.
And preparing for this, I looked into it and it looked like a fun puzzle. I didn't know why. First of all, it got so much flack in the first place, probably because of the expectations, right? But then people are now pissed that it doesn't exist. I don't understand what's going on. I talked to Andrew a little bit about that. It didn't make sense that people are clamoring for something that some complained about. So I guess people did like it, or they want it to be fixed. Like
they want it to be fixed.
Okay.
But I think people do want it to be fixed. And I think if there was a way to fix it and stay true to the part of the game that people mostly respond positively to, like most of the positive reviews are about how exciting and fun the competitive 2 to 4 player area control game is.
Yep.
And I think that is telling, because that was what was created. Like that was the game. And I think I'm not going to say that we failed to make a solo co-op game, because I think we succeeded. I think we made a solo co-opable game. And I think there are people who really enjoy it. But
solo
there are also
area control's tough, right?
Yeah.
It's fun because of the dynamic play space. If you want it to be truly dynamic, you've got to create a crazy AI algorithm that nobody wants to run, except for, some do. There's some psychopaths out there but I hate that. I hate having an algorithm that I have to sit there, read and run. So yeah. And Rec was just physically impossible to convert with the boats and stuff, the paths and the boat cannon dice and the fighting land to sea, sea to land.
the fact that now the elites don't have powers on boats, but they do on land. It, like if you control the Eastern Sea that has the ability to push the boats, where do they push them?
Yeah.
Where does an AI system do that? It quite literally, I mean, when I started Rec, I was like, there is no co-op. There's no solo, no co-op here. This is not designed to be honorable to that community. And I think it just has to be okay that that's what it is.
I love that decision. I hate when we try to make every game for everybody and you start to sacrifice design decisions. There's some really interesting things you have going on here with Rec that if you're saying you wouldn't exist if you had to make a solo co-op, let's make the interesting game as interesting as possible instead of vanilla, so you can put a bot in there that will make sense. So I commend the decision and to stick with it in the midst of people complaining about it relatively heavily in the comments. I also respect that, because I think a lot of people would have bowed to that and just made it or figured it out. But, maybe you couldn't either way because you made such a unique experience.
It literally, with Rec, it was not physically possible to do it. So what we do allow is for you to play all of the Rec factions in Wroth and in the solo and co-op.
So the factions still work fine solo.
They're fine.
The map is the constraint.
The map is different. The other thing you can't do is there's no AI version of the Rec
new
factions.
Ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can take the Ramakai and the Murin and you can play them against the Wroth faction AI, but you can't use them as AI to battle against.
So none of the new factions have a water specific powers?
No, they do not.
Did you want to do that?
I did want to, but if I did that, they would no longer be cross compatible. And so what we did instead is we're creating a generic feats that people can choose, that if you want, you can have a feat that is specific to Rec.
Oh, okay,
or a
that's
feat
fun.
that is specific to Wroth. But you also could just choose amongst your own feats, or they have like a feat deck that we're building, a whole pack of cards that offer Wroth-based, Rec, cross-compatible. And so I think that's when we started, there was two paths. One is Rec exists all by itself. All the factions are built to be boat-based, water-based, island-based. But if you do that, now none of the factions are cross-compatible. Now you can't play the Ramakai on Wroth. Now that's a choice. There's many, like I can't play Azul Stained Glass Sintra, and I can't mix it with regular Azul. Right? There's very much a precedent in board games that if you want the follow-up to Azul, you're buying a brand new game that has its own system. But there was kind of a cost-benefit analysis, or I don't even know how you want to say it, but an exploration of, would it be better if these 6 new factions are playable in Wroth and the Wroth factions are playable in Rec, so that now at least what you get is you get 6 new factions to play against all the AI decks and all the 8 AI factions in Wroth. So sorry, there's no AI map for Rec, and I don't know that there's a lot to be done about it, but this is the version of the game we wanted to make.
Is there any way in the future we get like an April Fool's promo water map only faction that is highly asymmetric to the boats and such? That'd be kind of cool.
It would be very cool. It'd be very cool.
I know it's not going to be chip theory anymore, so maybe that's out the window. But that would be, I think it would be interesting. Like you could probably do. I'm sure you have ideas to do really interesting things with the water that are asymmetric.
Yeah. And I also, we're trying to forward think too. Let's say this is successful and Rec does well and it continues to grow the community and it becomes a popular thing. Well, what if we wanted to make a third game, right? Do we want those factions to be cross-compatible still? Or do we want to create 3 isolated product lines or product games.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I'm getting ahead of myself. Who knows what the future holds, right?
I mean, from a sales perspective, I think making them fully cross-compatible is probably worth it. But you might also have a couple specialized promo things that just go out there. You know, some cool stuff for the super fans. Maybe like a Gen Con exclusive. Who knows?
Who knows what the future holds?
What's the next map then? Like if I had to, say today you've got to pick your next arena, what would it be?
There's some different ideas. Some are like a literal King of the Hill. Like like the point is that we're all racing up a mountain, so to speak. We're fighting as we're going up and trying to plant a flag on the top and try to own the top of the hill. Like there was a joke way back at the beginning that Wroth stood for we really own the hill, right? So like just kind of a King of the Hill kind of style map. But I am actually working on a third iteration of the game.
Okay.
And I don't know when that would ever come out, but I am actively working on it.
Do you work on the concept of the map first or the factions first?
The map.
The map.
Because the map and the mechanics of the world, like take Wreck. Wreck needed boats, and then it had the boat dice and the sea battles and the water areas to control, land areas to control, right? And so when I first play tested it, I used Wroth factions because I didn't need to make factions yet for it because the game had to work with the Wroth factions.
That's actually perfect.
So whatever the next one is, it needs to have its own gimmick. It needs to have its own thing that would make it unique and special and a fun iteration on the game. And there's ideas. There's definitely ideas to think about and to brainstorm for the future.
Do you think you'll always introduce a map with factions or ever do just factions or just a map? Or
I think there's a world where introducing more factions might be enough, right? It's that, I mean...
Usually the map doesn't excite me at all, but you made it almost feels like in reading the rules, a totally different experience because it is so different from the original.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to take it bite at a time.
Yeah.
Like if I can come up with a game mechanic or system that feels invigorating and fun and like a unique new challenge and a fun way to create an arena to battle in, then probably a full box again with factions. But I think there's a world where if this game is successful, why not release new factions? Why not have
balance?
Well, right, of course, balance.
Well, I mean, how much of that are you having to think about? I mean, you clearly had to think about that with Dice Throne, but I would imagine it's so much more difficult with a dynamic map that you're also having to deal with.
Yeah, I think adding the dynamic map, I will say that Wroth factions are less they're less pieces, like mechanically.
Yeah.
There are far less things to concern yourself with. Technically, there is 3 feat cards and 3 elites. So you have we'll call it 4 ingredients to mix when you're making something. You know, the elites can have special abilities, but what do? They have to interact with land, with resources, with movement, with healing, control, etc. Right? So no matter what you do with your new factions, they must all interact with the core tenets of the game. Dice Throne also has its ingredients. I think Dice Throne ingredients and componentry is actually more exhaustive. Like per hero, there's the status effects, there's the board and the abilities, there's the dice and how they interact with the abilities and their complexity to roll. Then there is the cards and the special abilities you put in the deck. Plus there is all of these things interact with damage, healing, prevention, debuffs, buffs, etc. So, but there is still a finite amount of ingredients in the Dice Throne hero. But it is richer, I would say, than a Wroth faction.
How many factions do you think this game could ultimately support?
Boy, I would be curious if we go past a third release with six factions.
Okay.
Like a third release with 6 factions puts us at, what is it, 19, right? Because there's 6, another 6, and then 7. So 19 total factions and 3 maps and gameplay mechanics. That feels pretty robust. We're at 45 heroes and Dice Throne. So I remember talking with Nate years ago saying, man, what if we got to 30 heroes? Wouldn't that be amazing? Is that too many? Are we going to even be able to keep making them?
The question is, will you get to 100?
I know. Now that's the new, like, can we
Depends
get to 100
on the
and
IP,
still
right?
have it?
Like if there's another IP, there you go.
But, can we do that and still have it be fresh and unique and fun? I think that's the ability to self-evaluate in those situations is important. Because I don't think it would be beneficial to just dump out heroes or factions for either brand, Dice Throne or Wroth.
Right.
So I would rather not make a third one than make a third one and feel like I'm just crafting junk to sell. That just doesn't sound fun. But I don't think we would. I think if we made a third one, I mean, the guys at the designer developers at Chip Theory have already expressed, ooh, what about this faction? And what about this one? What about this one? What about this one? So I think we easily have another 6 factions in us and another map. Based on what I'm currently playing with, I think the next map could be very interesting. It introduces new mechanics. It introduces new systems. There are no boats. And so
Cars
it'll be interesting to see
airplanes that allow us to jump over.
Neither of those.
Portals, portals I can go through.
It's fun to think about, and right now I'm having fun designing and working in it. So I think if I'm having a good time making it and people are enjoying it, then it's probably worth exploring.
Well, I mean, that's how you get the great art, is when you are truly having fun and you're not up against hey, the publisher asked you for the expansion to your popular game. Because it's something to sell. I was surprised that you did so many factions on the second round. Like, back to Root, I'm just going to throw this into the ground. They do 2 at a time, essentially. And, maybe there's a little extra things that they go along. You're throwing, what is it, 6 or 7 more this time around?
There's 6, 4 in the base game plus 2.
And there was 6 extras on the first one, right?
There's 7.
7 on
the box came with 5.
Oh, that's right.
The reason it came with 5 was the Uglon were originally intended to be the AI faction. Like the very first iteration, the Uglon were the bad guys who come up out of the crevices in the ground and you have to stop them.
I think they're my favorite to play out of the base, now that I think about it. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't have the expansion one, so I don't know, but I just have the base. Uglon I really like. Yep.
So yeah, I think there's room. I think the reason behind the 4 in this new base box is it's a standalone product.
Right.
Like you could walk up to a shelf and buy Rec and never own Wroth, never care about it. You could just be like, meh, I don't care about that game. But if we had put 2 factions in it, I think that would have been underserving the product. Right.
Well, yeah, especially, I mean, if you want it to be that standalone box, which I definitely see, because it is, it's not the entry level. I mean, I guess if you're comparing it to Wroth, like it totally makes sense to have that as a totally separate experience and not something that somebody has to go and invest in. Makes sense. Any thoughts on like little, back to Root? They do hirelings, so the mini factions that would help lower player counts be interesting. Now, I've enjoyed this at 2 much more than I do Root, so I don't think it has a 2-player problem. But any thoughts on fleshing the board out a little bit more when at lower player counts?
As a dueler, I love playing 2-player Wroth because you end up, because of the open information on the game, and at 2 players, you get 3 actions every round.
Right.
Plus, if you're losing, you get a 4th action. The game is very quick. I'll play with my boys and we'll play 20-minute games of Wroth. And because again, I'm battling you. Like I'm watching you posture and I'm like, okay, It just happened to be the 3 ended up in a place that's easy for me to get victory points. So I see you rush it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to disperse into other regions now. I'm going to propose a question back to you. You go ahead and get 3, and I'll contest. But I'm going to start getting 6 a turn because I own 3 other regions. Now what are you going to do about it? And then there's a game of chicken with your feats in 2-player. Who's going to feat first? And you don't like certain feats you want to do earlier, some you want to do later. And by later meaning, instead of first turn or second turn, you might wait till third, right? But that the strategic dueling nature of Wroth comes out pretty strong in 2-player. But I think it's harder. Like if you're an area control person, you're probably not going to enjoy Wroth at 2-player as much because it does pit you directly against a singular opponent.
Right.
And I think you have to think differently about the game. 3-player is interesting because you I would consider the third player, and it doesn't matter which one you view. One of us is going to view the other. One of us is a third player, and that third player is a bit of a wild card. That person can shift balance. They can form alliances. They can try to force ties while gaining points, and so it creates almost like the triangle of the game becomes a little sharper because now the game is much like if one person does something kind of aggressive or dangerous, the game becomes very tense. Whereas 4, you kind of are always going to be fighting something. At 4,
right.
You're always battling. You're always trying to contest. Everyone is everywhere all the time. Now we have the 5 and 6-player map coming, right? So on this campaign, you can add on the expansion for 5 and 6
there's a separate
player.
map?
Yep.
Is it the dark mode one?
No, the dark mode is just a goofy, fun version of the primary maps. But there's a 5 and 6-player expansion in there. And what it does is it gives you the Wroth and Wreck map at a larger scale, and it gives you the extra dice and tokens you need in order to be able to do a 5 and 6-player game. But it changes the drafting rules slightly. But it lowers, I think it lowers the victory point total down to 25 instead of 30. Mm-hmm. But 5 and 6-player is very intense. It is a massive skirmish, and it takes longer to play. So doing it, you kind of have to realize we're doing this because we want to spend an hour and a half to 2 hours playing Wroth.
Yeah. And is it still 2 actions per turn and the last place gets the third?
2 people get the last die.
Oh, okay.
So
That's interesting.
The bottom 2. Yep. And if there's 2 people tied, then they get it based on turn order. So 2 people will always get the last place die after the first round.
So you mentioned the 3 on the 2-player, and I really do like having 3 actions. Why not push the 3 forward on all the other games just so you could have the catch-up mechanism? Or what design constraint did you face?
I liked the idea. What do you do with what you have? You have 2 actions.
You wanted the constraint there.
Yep. Because technically you have 3 actions every turn already because you have your all-seeing die and your 2 action dice. And then you have abilities to manage as well. So I think 2 felt like the right amount of actions per round to manage and not have the game swing wildly any one direction. And if it does, that tends to be because people are not paying attention. Right. If you're not paying attention to, this person over here, right, they're running away with a region. That's kind of on you and me for not paying attention to someone running away with something. And I think if you give everyone an extra die, I think it makes each round potentially a little bit more dangerous and a little more volatile. So, just my 2 cents.
Your favorite new faction?
Of the new factions, I am a fan. I was going to say the fish people, the Murin. I really, really like what they do. And I love that they have this desire to create ties in regions.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
So that they can then win the region regardless of the core victory point. So that could actually hurt them and go down to 2 instead of 3 victory points. But when everyone would normally get nothing, they get something. And so there's that. The Overkin are pretty cool. They're giants, and so their guys, their elites kind of represent large characters,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of a fun dynamic. I feel like the biggest jerk move you can do in Rec is play the Ramakai, and you drop totems in regions, and now people can't enter that region.
Oh, they can't even go in at all?
No one can go in the region until the totem's gone.
How do they get rid of a totem?
You can shoot at them from adjacent regions, but you can't enter while they're alive, while they're standing. And so you put a massive target on your head when you're playing Ramakai and you drop totems. As soon as you do,
that's awesome.
People are like, all right, everyone, we're going to pause. We're going to shoot these totems off this board. Everyone get to work. And it's great because you're causing everyone to pause the game and come deal with your little totems that cause everyone a massive headache.
The one that stood out to me was the Wroth. Tell me how how the possession works. The little pieces, you literally put the other pieces inside of it, I think, right?
You do. You absolutely. You can move into a region and possess a character, a different grunt troop or a troop. And then they have an elite troop that can reduce its health to also possess guys off of your mat. So they can pull them right off your mat. And once they're possessed, they're gone. Like once they're like, you'll never get them back again, even if you kill that Wroth, because you always have to destroy the troop inside the spirit, the Wroth, and before you get the Spectre.
So they have 2 health.
They basically,
so that's the benefit of them getting possessed.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
And the medium allows for extra victory points if there's a medium and a possessed troop in a region. So you want to have possessed troops with your medium.
The most overpowered faction to date. I know they're not all perfectly balanced. Yes. No, I don't. I know they're not all perfectly balanced, Manny. Who's the most overpowered? I know your kids have a perspective at least.
So I'll tell you what my boys think.
Yeah.
They all believe the Uglon are the most powerful.
Yeah.
Hands down, everyone in my house thinks, and it's because my youngest son, who's 14, and he's 6 foot tall, he's the largest little kid in our house. And he always plays them, and he doesn't always win, but people get so mad when he plays that faction. And they're so mad that Parasite
have crazy feats too.
Yeah, they have the resurrect 10 guys, and then they have the Parasite, and
gather up to 10 horde and deploy them to any single region, then flip this card. Yeah, that's why I like them so much.
Yeah, that was the original feat. When I first designed all those Wroth factions, that was the first feat.
Oh, was it really?
The guild's 10 Korra, the Uglon's 10 troops, the Koda's mutation where you can pop out 3 grizzled. You can werebear out with 3 guys on the board. The ram run where you can move the ram around and shove people around. The Venas had their cauldron. They would gather cauldrons and pop them out and make extra guys. And the Paldanes had the iron will feat. Those were all the very, very first feats that I made for each one of the factions. So,
does the community have a perspective on any of them being quote unquote broken?
I am not 100%. I think what's fun is I'll pop in and I'll see someone say, "Do you think X is super overpowered?" I think it is. And then a handful of people will jump in and be like, "Well, if you know how to deal with them, this is how you take care of that."
Get good. And people hate that.
Yeah. Yes, they do hate that. And I actually hate that too. But people will definitely pop in and say, "Hey, here's the idea. Like if you're going to fight against, whatever faction, here's how you have to think about it differently." Because every faction feels broken when they do their cool thing. When you pop out a grizzled, and it's at 5 health, and everywhere it moves, it chomps a guy, and everywhere it attacks, it destroys 2. The grizzled feel really, really strong. They feel almost broken strong, but they're one troop. You just need to have 2 or 3, 4 other troops in that region, and then you starve the attack dice, and now the grizzled does nothing.
Right.
The only thing it can do is leave the region to try to attack.
Like any good war game, I mean, there's always a counter, but then you leave yourself open for something else, and it's a balance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so now I think people generally consider the Runin to be the weakest faction. I think a lot of people will view the dwarves as the weakest of the factions. I actually really enjoy playing them. And I think that they got a pretty good bump in rec. I think they got a nice. I think they will be a strong faction.
They got more powerful on that map.
Yep. I think they actually improved.
So that's the one to bring over out of the gates and blindside your.
Well, I think it would be very fun. Like the Stoics cannot be attacked from outside the region, so you must. So they can't be damaged. You can shoot at them with boats, but you can't damage them.
Right.
And they collect 2 victory points if they win a region. So the Stoic, his stock went up in rec because boats can't hurt him. And you can't hurt him from the region adjacent to him. You have to get into the region with the Stoic. And if you do, then they have rams that can theoretically push your dudes back out again. And then, I think they are a potentially finickier faction. Mm-hmm. They have more little things you have to be really conscious of while you're playing. Whereas the Coda trappers they're traps. They're going to do damage, give you Cora or
pretty straightforward.
Guys. And the Grizzled are just big bears that walk around smacking stuff. Right. The Alden, I think, are maybe considered mid-tier. What I like about them is kind of the silliness of that faction. They're really serious, right? They're the High Elves. But the idea of organized war has always been really hilarious to me. That we will not shoot our arrows until we have an elegant on the field and we have a Wyndham on the field. Then we are allowed to do what Theoden did and give them another volley, right? I think that's always really hilarious when you have war games that are, we will not just attack, we will only attack in an elegant fashion.
They have some sort of like moral high ground, or in this case, they need elegance. Okay, so I've already used 30 minutes more than I promised you, so I want to get you out of here. But before we do that, what is the best Dice Throne hero you've ever created?
My favorite or the best?
Both, actually. That was going to be my follow-up.
My favorite has been and probably always will be the Barbarian.
I haven't played the Barbarian. That's an original, right?
That's
season
my
1?
Boy. That is season 1. He is the only level 1 hero in the game. He's the lowest complexity. I love playing with the Barbarian. I actually think there is an elegance to his design that people sleep on, because all he does is hit hard. Mm-hmm. But in a game where people have debuffs and crazy junk everywhere and they have all these mechanics and all these different things, how do you bring a sword to the battle and just beat down an opponent?
Right.
It doesn't make him the most competitive. He doesn't win all the OP tournaments. But it is one of the most satisfying ways for me to play. But again, that's very thematic. If I'm going to play Diablo, I'm going to probably use a Barbarian.
And just spin the whole time.
I'm gonna leap in and ground pound, and then I'm gonna spin my way through everything in the universe, and I don't care. And I'm gonna get big weapons, and I'm gonna double hand sword and hammers and everywhere. Right.
So you're not a mage that likes to sit back and snipe.
No.
Okay.
No. If I'm a mage who jumps into the middle with my stick, and I die, and everyone's got to heal me and bring me back because I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
So, the best designed hero, I will say, I think one of the most interesting heroes we have made, I think it might be the Forge Master in the current Vanguard set. He has 0 status effects. He mines his deck for ore in order to craft a gold helmet and then turn that to a diamond helmet and then to an ultimanium helmet.
Oh, that's cool.
And so as you're playing, you every turn you can mine your deck. When you mine your deck, you look at the top 3 cards, and if there's ore there, if there's an ore, you get to take it and put it in your forge. And when you put it in, it's in your forge, if you collect 2 gold ore, you can craft a helmet. And then if you have a helmet plus 2 diamond, you can turn your gold helmet into a diamond helmet. And then if you have a diamond helmet and you find an ultimanium ore, now I can craft the ultimanium helmet. And so, but what I love about it is as you're mining, you're seeing your powerful cards come up and go away. Because when you mine, you don't get to keep them. You get to go, oh, there goes my not this time, or my twice as wild, right to the bottom of the deck. Now, a lot of the high-level competitive players have figured out like how to count their deck. And so they're like tracking where cards are. I don't do that. I just literally mine my deck because it's fun.
My brain doesn't work that way.
No, I'm not going to process like that. But what I love about it is they're figuring out ways to do that. You know, whether it's exploiting or not, whatever. It's a mechanic. They can, if they want to mentally count their cards, go for it, man. But that is all he does. He mines his deck and forges and forms.
What does the helmet give you? Just more defense?
The helmet attacks back defensively.
Oh.
So when you hit him, his helmet damages you back. But the other part that makes him, I think, very fun is he can craft things and give them to teammates. So I can make a helmet and I can give it to you. So now when we're playing adventures or missions or, the co-ops, you can actually craft armor, and you can craft a shield and a helmet and give it to your friends. And so I think that's probably one of the most interesting things we've done. We continue, like there's characters that we have brainstormed that I think are really interesting as well that have yet to come out.
Right, because you have to get more ornate as you go, right?
Yes and no. It's a combination of becoming, again, you're crafting burritos. We're making Mexican food.
That's true.
So you're making tostadas, and then we're going to make some tamales, and then we're going to make a nice pico, and then we're going to make a salsa verde and whatever, right? And you can continue to make new recipes, but in the end, the players have to feel as though that is a good combination of the existing ingredients. And so far, in my experience, we're succeeding. We're making unique new heroes. So
that's what I've been surprised with. I'm relatively new to Dice Throne, and I did not give it the credit of variety that I should have. My first set was this brand new set, where the Headless Horseman, Pale Lady, and then I saw the variety there, and then I was like, oh, okay. I saw at Barnes and Noble actually the Marvel, and I was just so impressed at how they totally felt different. So now I'm like, oh, I gotta get it all, but then my wife's gonna kill me. So that's the one thing about systems like that is just like,
yes.
I kind of feel like I need it all, but I don't at the same time.
Yeah, no, you don't. And I think one of the things we're doing with Dice Throne now is moving to single heroes.
Mm-hmm. So I noticed that my FLGS just got a ton of singles.
Yes, and that's. Some people look at that and they're like, "Oh, Dyson's just trying to gouge us for more money or whatever."
I would say the opposite.
That's my desire. That's our desire. Is that when Nate and I first created it, one of our visions was imagining a wall of heroes and an empty box, and you can just build your box your way. Mm-hmm. And we are now finally 10 years in at a place where we can give you that power to do that. You do not need all the heroes. What I would rather you did was buy the heroes you want and play them. And it might grow past the 4 or 6. And maybe it goes to 10. Great. If it goes to 10, that's awesome. But feel free to buy as much as anybody wants. But some people feel like, well, I need to complete it. I need to get all of it. And that's very encouraging. And it's amazing that the game is strong enough that people want that. But I would almost rather people are like, hey, these are the 5 I really like. These are the 6, the 8, the whatever, the 10. And I also like that, let's say I introduce it to a new person and I'm like, well, why don't you just pick one hero? Like pick your favorite. oh, I really like the idea of a werewolf. Great, play Pale Lady. I'll teach you. We'll play the game together. Now you have a hero. You can play Dice Throne. You can play Adventures. We can play Randomizer. We can play a tournament in our house if we want. And all you had to do is spend $17. And I'm the guy who owns all 45, but you own one. And now you come over to my house with your favorite hero and play them. Right. I think there's something really empowering about that. And I hope that is what people feel moving forward, is that there's a real sense of owning your heroes and making them yours. Right.
Yeah, I love the idea of being able to pick and choose and build your own box, because there are inevitably some that just aren't interesting for you if you buy the full thing. Are all of them going to be available as singles, or only certain ones?
The plan is eventually they'll all be released in single. Yep.
Okay. And so the one thing that's frustrated me is I bought a set that doesn't bend, so I can't put them in the cool things. Can I thought I saw in Gen Con actually selling bendable boards, or the folded boards.
So you can buy the X-Men come in a battle chest. Yes. 8 hero battle chests that we sell.
And now I wish I would have just bought the battle chest. Now I have FOMO.
Yes. So you can get them. That version was meant to be a retail version.
Right. I got it at Barnes & Noble. It was there.
Exactly. So, yep.
Yep. Okay. So that is all I have for you. As this comes out, tomorrow's the last day in the campaign, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so
we're coming down to it.
Yeah, I'm going to get this out tomorrow morning. What else can people look out from you, know that they're going to be seeing this in the next few weeks, over the next few weeks at least?
I mean, obviously, Rec is a big deal because it's going live right now, which is great.
And there'll be late pledges we announced, as well, even if they see this after,
there definitely will be late pledges. Dice Throne, we have a Kickstarter in the fall, and what we've announced is it's called Nexus. That's the title of the next set. And that one has a cyberpunky vibe too.
Ooh, that's cool.
So if you were to watch that video, you'd probably get some cyberpunk vibes. So there's that. And also right now, I think it's late pledgeable, but Dice Throne Digital is running. Right? And Dice Throne Digital is coming. We have alpha testers right now playing it. Beta testers.
What platforms is that going to be on?
It will be iOS, Android, Steam, and Meta Quest.
Sweet.
So over the next, it's August. So over the next 6 months, that's going to make a lot of headway and a lot of growth. So I think it's really our Nexus thing that's coming up. Rec is hot and fun. And then Dice Throne Digital is a big deal. That's coming.
Cool. Well, I'll throw links down there. I really appreciate you being here. Maybe we can do this again when you launch another project. I'd love to talk Dice Throne or whatever else you have coming up from Neon Knight. This has been great.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Manny. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye.